While in prison for 27 years in South Africa, Nelson Mandela said he felt the lack of the wild. We celebrate this great statesman for his social rights work, but Mandela was a conservationist at his core. He saw no borders, and when it came to his compassion for all African life and the land, he founded a Pan-African organization dedicated to the establishment of trans-frontier conservation areas, and he specifically advocated for responsible tourism as a driver of rural economies. This visionary approach to conservation, one we share, as you'll see during today's show, is now facing its greatest challenge in the face of COVID-19. The pandemic likewise knows no boundaries. It's crossed borders and oceans, striking the African conservation community head-on, devastating the main industry which supports it, the exact one that Mandela called out and so fervently embraced: tourism. Without this revenue stream, the livelihoods of the people dedicated to protecting our natural treasures, the wildlife and the land, are in jeopardy. While jobs have been cut and resources severely reduced, poaching activity has increased, leaving an already threatened animal population more vulnerable than ever and derailing the considerable progress made. We are here today to tell you that we simply will not let this happen, that we are on the cusp of major breakthroughs with ranger-centric programs and technologies that are not only scalable and effective, but achievable during this pandemic. My name is Josh Duhamel, and welcome to Endangered Rangers. All right, so here we are, just landed. Step foot in Africa, Tanzania, Kilimanjaro International Airport, 21 hours of actual flight time, 24 hours of travel time, and I hardly slept, but I don't feel tired, but I'm just so excited. Here we are, baby, let's do this.
Our elephants or our games need to move freely. Youth of this area need to be empowered, and the only way we empower them is through education. They get quality education will reduce the number of poachers in time.
If you weren't aware, I am a lifelong animal advocate. I've spent a lot of time on the ground in Africa, intentionally working with the rangers and the anti-poaching units. I've trained with these men and women. I know the weight they carry as they go out on patrol. I've seen firsthand the tragedies befalling the elephants, and the rhinos, and the lions, and the wild dogs, and more due to poaching. Protecting wildlife is the most dangerous and rewarding role that I can imagine, which is why my heart is committed to helping the rangers be provided for as much as possible, literally from their boots to their backpacks to getting them detection dogs, advanced animal collars, AI cameras in the field to ensure their safety and therefore that of the animals. By helping the rangers, you are 1,000% saving the animals. You will clearly be inspired by the programs and solutions your support is going towards. I can't wait for you to hear about the Rhino relocation programs and the Minority Report-like tools that are being used to target criminal activity. Over the next hour and a half, you will hear from people we call our boots on the ground, whether they're called rangers or game scouts, forest guards, or field officers. These men and women on the front lines will share their stories and tell us how the pandemic has affected them personally, how it's affected their families, and the animals that they safeguard. What you will hear missing, but in a good way, is not a moment of hesitation in their faith and their hope for the future. This strength in the face of adversity is a sentiment that we've seen right in our own backyards, making the plight of the not so foreign and far away. These peacekeepers are wildlife's essential workers, people who need their economic hardships alleviated and support wildlife protection operations to continue. This is not dissimilar to the urgencies the frontline workers at home are experiencing. So today, besides getting to see me wheezing out of breath as I try to keep up with the anti-poaching units in Tanzania, I will be joined by some of my less winded wildlife champions who can, like me, attest to the pioneering work being done by the game-changing organizations behind endangered rangers and share their personal connections to the cause. You will hear heartfelt and inspirational stories. You'll be introduced to some of the most advanced anti-poaching technologies that, with your support, can be deployed faster, at scale, and with more results to the over 7,400 protected areas in Africa. The enormity of the responsibility put on the rangers, especially now due to the pandemic, is incredible, which is why we're coming together today to ask for your help. We know that there are many worthy causes asking for your time and money right now, so we are incredibly grateful that you've joined us today, and thank you in advance for your donations. With that, let's hear from the Endangered Rangers team, my family from the African Community and Conservation Foundation, Brady Forseth and Pete Matson, and my anti-poaching tech crime fighting friends, Genocidin and Bastian Den Braber.
And thank you, Josh, for helping us beat the drums for Africa today. Hi, everyone. My name is Brady Forseth, and our mission at ACCF is to preserve the African wilderness and empower the communities that live alongside those spaces. So welcome, everyone, to the Endangered Rangers. I'm so grateful to be here alongside my colleague Pete and our teammates Jenna and Bas of Zambezi Partners to share with you all the magic of what is happening on the ground in Africa today. Don't get me wrong, we've asked you to join us today because the wildlife conservation crisis, which existed pre-COVID, has gotten much worse due to the pandemic. What this means is that the already ominous timelines of key species like the elephants, the rhinos, and the lions, those timelines will eventually disappear. And now, all been accelerated. So we're going to be candid with you today, but not graphic, to show you the gravity of the situation on the ground. Like I said a moment ago, I can guarantee you are also going to see some magic and even feel it as we celebrate and support the men and women who are the peacekeepers on the ground between the human and the wildlife conflict, the rangers. Africa may show some lower COVID cases than the rest of the world right now, but that's not the problem. The revenue sources that supported the rangers, the wildlife programs, and local communities have all been decimated. Tourism seems to have almost disappeared. Supply chains have dried up, leaving them without jobs or even ill-equipped to defend against the surge in poaching activity. Yet, what the pandemic has not taken away is the rangers' pride, their commitment, and hope for the future. Across Africa, many areas have thinner ranks and worn-out boots. The anti-poaching scouts, or rangers, aren't going to let COVID set back the amazing progress that has already been made, and neither will we.
That's exactly right, Brady. Why our organizations, ACCF and Zambezi Partners, came together. I'm Bastian Den Braber, co-founder of Zambezi Partners. Although both ACCF and Zambezi work in partnership with different protected areas across sub-Saharan Africa, and each of those protected areas are unique in their context, and their approach with varying stages of technology development, we're all engaged in the same anti-poaching campaign. We may use different tools at different times to achieve our goals, but we all want the same outcome: eradicating poaching in our lifetime. So what really sucks is that COVID hit during a time when so much momentum had been building across the continent. We're seeing detection dogs significantly reducing poaching incidents. We were seeing final development stage of artificial intelligence camera traps, able to tell not only a good guy from a bad guy, but which spots belong to which individual cat. In state-of-the-art IoT animal collars, we're starting to roll out across the region for more than just elephants, with everything from cheetahs to wild dogs to hyenas. These latest innovations run on a so-called secure LoRa network, bring the data together in a digital control room where everything is visualized and range of movement is coordinated from. The first thing to grasp is that none of this would happen without the range in the first place. It's their field intelligence what goes into the design of these technologies. The second thing is that rangers and anti-poaching teams are the ones who work with the technologies and provide the human interpretation, ultimately do the execution. And we see their work being so much more effective and efficient by helping them with science, data, and technology. During the show, we'll hear much more about these pioneering efforts and how we have continued to keep up the amazing development work. But the problem we are solving for today is how to keep that momentum going as we are losing precious time. And honestly, time the animals don't have. So Zimbabwe Partners' mission is to use technology to end poaching in our lifetime. And considering nature is the best technology, caring for the men and women who protect our natural treasures is always the priority. I would like now to hear from Pete and the amazing work that they're doing.
Thanks, boss. Hello, everybody. I'm Pete Matson. It's really great to be here with everyone, and I really wanted to be speaking to you alongside our colleagues on the ground in Tanzania or Zimbabwe. But then again, boss, you probably would have immediately grabbed your backpack and have been camping in the bush for days. So glad you're here with us. Something we don't have enough time to really cover and dive into on this Endangered Rangers event is spotlighting our community outreach programs. These go hand in hand with our physical anti-poaching efforts. At ACCF, creating a positive relationship between the people who live side by side with the wildlife near these protected areas is absolutely key for long-term success. These local communities are key stakeholders in conservation, so it's critical they thrive socially and economically to address these challenges. Today, we're humbly asking for you to donate towards the needs of the rangers. They are the community. That's where they live when they're not patrolling in the bush with their families. So when COVID has shut down the schools and limited access to everyday resources, the burden on the rangers increases, and we need to be there for the community more than ever. Our community programs include a variety of things from education to health, food, women and girls empowerment, entrepreneurial training, and business development, and last but not least, environmental education. We've helped turn former poachers into successful beekeeping entrepreneurs and empower young girls into future leaders with new opportunities. So by helping us today to secure the livelihoods of the best rangers with gear and resources, it has ripple effects and uplifts the whole community. On behalf of ACCF and Zambezi, we thank you so much in advance for your generosity, and we're excited to report back on the direct impact your support will make today.
Thank you, Pete. I'm Jenna Seiden. I'm co-founder of Zambezi Partners. So where's your money going? It's going to go towards the anti-poaching programs of the Grumeti Fund, the Maolangwe Trust, and the Wildest Life Trust. These are nonprofits that support over 500,000 acres in sub-Saharan Africa. From the Great Plains of the Serengeti, in the northern parts of Tanzania, the forest areas in the northwest of Zimbabwe near Victoria Falls, down to the southeast corner in the wilderness of Zimbabwe. And with so much land to cover and varying habitats and animal populations and local villages to consider, each anti-poaching program is designed around the unique characteristics of its protected area. These programs are also unfortunately designed around the illegal activity taking place. Where one property sees more bushmeat poaching and wire snares all over, another one's going to see elephant poaching for ivory. Rangers are going to see highly armed poachers because the protected area itself is positioned as an animal corridor. Makes sense that there are different amounts of rangers that are deployed, different types of equipment and tactics used to combat these dynamic conditions. So conservation and community development is an ongoing process. We want to keep the world happy where people and wildlife can live in harmony. But your support was needed before the pandemic. It's going to be needed after, and it is crucially needed now. So the monies raised today will go towards immediate needs, such things like gear and equipment, even repairs to fencing and buildings. These are places where the units eat, sleep, and rangers ranger. These are things that keep them safe and help to alleviate some of those economic challenges. Your donations will also go towards programs that need to be introduced for the first time, or towards existing ones that need to be safeguarded. These are canine units or smart animal collars, AI cameras, digital control rooms, and a lot more you're going to see today. We're excited that you're going to be inspired by all the things you're going to see today. And with that, it's time to start the show. I'm confident that you're going to find a new connection to Africa, the rangers, the community, maybe a rhino or pangolin, or maybe you'll come to reactivate some commitment to yourself to think locally and globally. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your donations. And to get us started, please let me introduce our friend, two-time Oscar nominee, Jaimin Hansu.
Thank you, Jana, Brady, Pete, and Boss. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here tonight, and it's an honor to play a role in protecting Africa's wildlife and support the people on the ground who do so every day. In my native country of Benin, we have one of the few remaining lion populations in the whole of West Africa, in the beautiful park of Pangolin, which I hope you might visit someday. And when you visit Africa, you're not only supporting the people, but Africa's wildlife, and you are most welcome. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, there has been a decrease in tourism, which has had a detrimental effect on the financial models supporting the rangers that protect our wildlife, which is why we are here together today. Africans are hoping the future can be bright despite all the challenges we face, and hope that we can learn from the world and the world from us, that our time has come. It is my deepest hope that Africa's wildlife, that is part of our history and a deep part of our culture, continue to be an essential part of our future and the future of our planet. There is a great talent and ability in Africa today, and increasing entrepreneurship and opportunities provides our people with ways to build our nation and alternative options to poaching through educational programs. We hope to move forward in a positive way, and your support of the endangered rangers is a step in that direction.
Having traveled to Africa for the first time over 10 years ago, I gained a love and appreciation for Africa's wildlife. I was mesmerized. I watched these beautiful animals in their natural habitat for hours every day on safari. I learned that they were fierce yet gentle, protective yet caring, and tough yet susceptible. They were susceptible to not just animal predators, but human predators too. We are lucky enough to have Bob Poole with us today. Bob is an Emmy Award-winning National Geographic filmmaker and photographer. Having grown up in Africa, Bob's father was an honorary warden of Tanzania National Parks. Some may even say that animal photography and wildlife preservation was Bob's destiny. His passion for wildlife conservation has taken him around the world to some of Africa's most remote locations. Bob's notable credit list includes documentaries for PBS, BBC, Discovery, and over 40 projects with National Geographic. We are honored to have Bob Poole with us today.
Hey there, I'm Bob Poole. Happy to be with Endangered Rangers today. I grew up in Africa, was a Peace Corps brat. My parents then went into wildlife conservation. My family's been wrapped up in wildlife conservation forever. My older sister, Joyce Poole, is very famous for her work with elephants. she discovered infrasound, which is that elephants are communicating below our human hearing capabilities, and also must, which is a really important sexual reproductive cycle that big bull elephants go through. I myself have been a wildlife filmmaker throughout my career with National Geographic and BBC. In fact, I've just come back from Africa. Well, when I say just, I mean, as in March of last year, came home to do some public speaking for National Geographic, and COVID hit, so I left all my equipment in Africa, and I haven't been back since, and I can't wait to get back there as soon as possible. But in the meantime, the things that are happening over in Africa because of COVID are so bad that I think it's important that we really talk about that today.
Hello, I'm Don Felder. I wanted to say thank you to all the brave people on the ground in Africa who are protecting our endangered wildlife, and to all of you who are tuning in today. Later on in this broadcast, I'll be performing for you. Let's all come together to bring awareness to the men and women on the front lines, watching our endangered animals whose jobs, salaries, health care, child care, and supplies are all in jeopardy. Although Africa seems a world away, we share in the same struggles. This is a cause that's very close to my heart, and I want to thank you for tuning in, and please stay tuned for some wonderful things to come.
I'm Wesley Gold, and I'm the anti-poaching manager for the Grumeti Fund. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about poaching in Africa, and especially in this area, the northwest corridor of the Serengeti ecosystem. Why do people poach? Largely people poach because of subsistence reasons, to feed themselves. But what we've noticed recently is that people have now, instead of just feeding themselves, they're now starting to do this commercially. So therefore, a larger number of animals are being poached and hunted, which is totally unsustainable.
Hi, I'm Kate. When I was 7, I'm 11 now, I went on safari with my family to Africa. It was so amazing seeing all the beautiful animals up close and in their natural habitats. Did you know that cheetahs chirp like birds to communicate, that hippos can smell underwater, and that elephants are scared of bees? But sadly, I also learned that there are only 7,000 cheetahs left in the wild, that elephants and rhinos are poached for their tusks and horns every day, and that farmers kill lions, wild dogs, and hyenas to protect their crops and livestock. The fact is, humans are the biggest threat to animals. I wanted to understand more, so my family and I visited organizations who are working to protect wildlife. I spent time with rangers on the ground who taught me how they're protecting animals. Sometimes rangers spend the day in the bush, which is an area with low-growing trees, bushes, and grasses. It looks a little bit like this. Sometimes rangers will spend weeks in the bush. They camp out, monitor wildlife, look out for poachers, and collect snares. A snare is a tiny wire that traps and kills animals when they walk into them.
Greetings. My name is Mike Ball. I'm the security manager at the Malangwe Trust, which is situated in the southeast corner of Zimbabwe. I'm in charge of all aspects of security here, internal security, and also run the anti-poaching team, including training and general operations within the trust, and also get involved with the local police and police nationally on anti-poaching operations around the country.
Hi, I'm Evander Holyfield. Thank you for joining me today to support the rangers and endangered wildlife in Africa. The animals are already greatly at risk from poaching and climate change, but now the economic effects of the pandemic endanger the lives of the people who safely guard them. Please join me today as we knock out poaching and provide hope for the people and the wildlife in Africa.
So consider donating early. People can even text to give. Text Rangers to 1-833-968-1234. A ranger's job is never done, as they are the eyes and ears of the conservation community, helping people, the animals, and the planet. Not only do they spend days patrolling, they also monitor wildlife, track poachers, fight fires, engage with the local communities, and assist tourists.
When I was a kid growing up in Africa, we used to spend a lot of time camping in the bush, and I can remember hearing drums beating at night. And that's a sort of a feeling. It's a sound, but it's a feeling that will be with me forever. And I feel badly because it's not a sound you hear that often anymore. And I think it's something that we need to be sure that we keep that drum beat going, to keep us going and to keep all this great thing we call nature intact.
Introducing the endangered rangers.
Greetings to you all. My name is Sergeant Patrick Mangondo of the Malilangwe Scouts. With the circumstances in this country, like everyone else in our area, after school, we go to South Africa. Yes, I went to South Africa after schooling. In South Africa, I mixed up with a bad crowd, and I ended up being in prison for 9 years. Yeah, life in prison is not easy, but I had time to think and plan about my future. And unfortunately, I lost my parents while I was in prison. When I came out, I came home, and by that time there was a training in Malilangwe, so I ended up joining the training. We did the training, the 6 months training. It was tough, yeah, because at first days it involves fitness. It's all about physical before we do many things. Yeah, it helped me a lot because I'm now a changed person because of that training, and I also managed to move from the trainee to being a scout and being a senior scout. I worked my up through the ranks until I became a sergeant, and also I am the senior instructor who is also doing all the trainings and refresher courses, and also I'm involved also in the cadet program, which we are running in the property, helping the young boys, grooming them, not to become scout, but to prepare them to get ready for the future. I managed also to being a scout in my language helped me a lot because I also built a house of my dream, and I'm happy with my kids and my wife. Thank you.
My name is Atwe Ngube. I'm working to Panda Masue. I'm FPU.
My name is Fembra Mtwangwa. I'm the security officer responsible for anti-poaching deployments in Panda Masue.
My name is Paradzaim Tize. I'm a head elephant handler at Wildlife in Panda Masue Forest.
Okay, my name is Brave Donald Chuma. I'm here at Wildlife Panda Masue Boss. Then my role here is Wildlife. I'm an elephant handler, which I can also say I'm an elephant care. It's a very good part of the job which I appreciate for that. However, we have been facing the challenges for this COVID-19, which is by pandemic to each and everyone countrywide. But we have managed to do our best. We are pushing, we are caring our animals. As you can see, we are here. We will never give up for that. We are still pushing and we will be pushing. That's our future. They are friends. They are more brothers and sisters if I can look for them. We miss one another. They also miss me. I also miss them.
Good evening, folks. My name is Rex Masupe. I was born and raised near the game reserve in a village situated just outside Northern Tuli Game Reserve. And during that time, I had an opportunity to expose to human-wildlife conflict or human-wildlife interactions. But when I grew up, I chose a different field, still in tourism, but of guiding or wildlife education. And then I ended up in Disney World in America. But while I was there, I realized that my passion is back there in the game reserve where I grew up. And I came back and got a job with the anti-poaching, worked my way up, and until today I'm overseeing the anti-poaching team, the entire unit of the team, and I'm the director of the company. An anti-poaching team is needed in the Northern Tuli Game Reserve because the reserve is situated in the eastern corner of Botswana, surrounded by 3 communities: Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa. And whenever a game reserve is bordering human settlement, there is always conflict of people and animals. Yeah, there's different methods of poaching that takes place here. The syndicates of poachers either use wire snares. These are wire traps that are set on the animal path to target animals while they're going to drink. And then there's also the night hunting, which they use powerful flashlights to blind animals at night, and then get close and spear them in the heart. And then there's also shooting on the boundaries. Yeah, the main species targeted by poachers ranges from impala, zebra, kudu, but there's a great risk of elephants. I have a strong team, but it's a small team for the area that we're operating in. We need more manpower and we need more equipment. In order to curb this poaching, you need to live like a poacher. You need to be able to go everywhere where the activity is taking place, and therefore transport is required. You need to survive at night and be able to operate like they're operating. Equipment like night vision goggles, GPSs and tents. Have your men sleep around and move around and wherever the poachers are operating. The solution obviously is to approach poaching in 2 different angles. That of law enforcing, while we have rangers or anti-poaching on the ground to arrest the perpetrators. But it's also important to approach the problem or the challenge with proactive means, and that is of education, targeting the youth and changing the mindsets. Although it's a slow process, but that will bring good results, because in a long time you'll be able to change the community or the people into a different perspective towards animals.
Hi, I'm Kelly Reisdorf with Vista Outdoor, proud supporter of the African Community and Conservation Fund. I am so moved by the work of this fund. They are changing lives, developing communities, protecting our wild spaces and wildlife populations. What we are seeing across the globe is an exciting and inspiring time of a rediscovery of outdoor spaces, and at the same time, an increased need for support for conservation. At Vista Outdoor, we are proud to support these anti-poaching operations. Our commitment to conservation is core to our mission, which is to bring the world outside. And yet, we are also facing a biodiversity crisis. We can't afford to take backward steps in terms of the environmental progress that has been made to date by conservationists and organizations like the ACCF. Pre-pandemic, there was a 10 to 30 year time frame in which keystone species could disappear completely. And now the loss of just one can have a cascading impact at a local, regional, and global ecosystem level. We recognize that there is a very delicate balance between conservation and local, sustainable community development, which is why we are so proud of the thoughtful approach that the ACCF takes. It's also about serving those who serve us. At Vista, we provide many of the critical products needed to support anti-poaching operations in the field. And much like our veterans here in the States, these Ranger Scouts are putting their lives on the line every single day. And as a proud Marine Corps vet myself, I not only can relate to that call to duty and that call to service, but also the critical need to have high quality gear that you need when it matters most. I had the great fortune to summit Kilimanjaro and experience the Serengeti with my teenagers, and I am so grateful that they were able to experience firsthand the impactful work that the ACCF has done for community development. And that's what this is all about at its core, is helping others to achieve economic self-sufficiency. Endangered Rangers is all about the transformative programs to support the people, the land, and the wildlife that will ultimately mitigate the economic hardships that face the conservation community today. So I say it's time that we all turn our attention to Africa. Your support for the Endangered Rangers will serve to ensure that this critical environmental protection work can continue for generations to come.
There is no typical day for our security team. Different parts of our team have different jobs every day, and those, obviously depending on what's happening, those differ. Generally, a scout will wake up early in the morning, feed himself before he goes out on patrol, and leave around about 5:30, 6 in the morning. We cover our boundaries every morning to make sure that nobody's coming overnight, and then generally they'll walk about 20 kilometers on average, which may not seem a lot to some, but in the temperatures we're dealing with, it's pretty difficult. And each call sign has an area to cover, which they will cover each day and do their monitoring, and also to check that no one is overnight, no poachers have come in. That's a general day. They'll get back in the evening. We do allow our scouts to have their families in, which is very unusual. Most other properties do not allow that, so they do have their families at the camp to greet them in the evening, and wives to help them with their chores once they reach the camp. So they also, from time to time, they'll be required to work at night time. They'll have the day off, and then they'll work at night time and do night operations, which is obviously also a dangerous time for us.
What is my biggest fear for the animals? Oh, the biggest fear, I think, in the future to come is the human-wildlife conflict. There's going to be less habitat for the animals to live in, and so we need very well-fenced and guarded parks for the small amount of land that the animals have to still be able to live in. That is something we really have to take care of, because if these are open lands where human and animals will have conflicts, then most likely the animals will lose and will get poached or killed in any other way.
Do you know what is the most dreaded night for any ranger? A full moon. A beautiful full moon is called a poacher's flashlight. The poachers know when the full moon is out, and they use it as an advantage to kill the animals. So whenever you see a full moon, think of the rangers in Africa working extra hard to protect their animals.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited about our next guest speaker here. Someone who's near and dear to my heart, someone that I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time in Africa with and seeing firsthand truly what a warrior he is for the people and the wildlife in Africa, and has had a long history there, and that's Doug Pitt. First met him in 2010 when he was appointed as the Goodwill Ambassador of the Republic of Tanzania by the President, and he's had a long history in the continent of Africa. and started off Convoy of Hope. He was the founder of World Serve International, where they've been providing clean water, drilling wells, and filtration throughout East and Sub-Saharan Africa. And more than 2 million people have been provided clean water in Tanzania, thanks to Doug Pitt and his team. And he's had a ton of experience and work on the front lines with the peacemakers on the ground between the human and wildlife conflict in the field. But without further ado, I want to bring in Doug Pitt to the show. Welcome to the show, Doug. It's
How
awesome.
you doing, Brady?
It's awesome to have you here.
Love it.
Yeah. You know, we have an exciting event tonight, as you know, this Endangered Rangers event, and we've got a lot of cool things to discuss with you right now. And I want to start off with you. Let's talk a little bit about your passions and your why for Africa. I know you've done a lot of great work in the areas of community outreach and clean water, and we'll tie into some of the other things you've done on the anti-poaching side and the protection of the wildlife. But let's talk about your community outreach background and all that collective impact work you've done in Africa.
It's been about 15 years now, and it started with clean water, and that's the mainstay of what I do there. I think it's amazing to be able to walk into a village and see it pre-water. And then after we do a well, just the tangible difference where you're addressing not just sickness, but truly life and death. And I love seeing these families and communities transformed. And then we can bring in irrigation and medical dispensaries and schools and sanitation. And it's just, it's a gift that not only just keeps giving in the immediate, these are 35, 40-year gifts.
Yeah, that's incredible. And tell me a little bit more about beyond clean water. I mean, you and I, we've been together in Africa since 2010. We went on a couple providing the gift of hearing to those in need around the world. But, you know, obviously being the goodwill ambassador for the Republic of Tanzania, you've seen a lot more in other areas as well. What are some of those other areas besides like the gift of hearing that you've helped with in Africa?
Well, and water provides that, because obviously once you get water to a community, they're not nomadic. They can stay around and the communities can thrive. Well, then everything else comes into play. So from malaria to obviously the medical needs, from seeing and hearing like we did, but teaching drip irrigation, getting girls back into school. And a lot of the kids having to work and labor for water keeps them out of school. So the ability to get them there. And then once they're there, sanitation becomes a big issue. And just from women's health and women's rights to really, there's a number of different things that are, I'd call them spokes around this wheel of water that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this really ties into the whole, this is what this event's all about, is the plight of the people and the wildlife.
Absolutely.
Been affected by this pandemic, and it's so important that we're here tonight raising awareness and support for these causes. And really, the community ties into the wildlife, to the protection of the wildlife. Tell me a little bit about your experience. I know you have had a long history of experience with the anti-poaching men and women who are really those frontline, peacekeepers on the ground between that human-wildlife conflict. Tell us a little bit about that.
I bet I've been on safari now 40 times, and I would go tomorrow if I could again. I love just being amongst the animals and being able to see that. And I was a part-time photographer. It's just an amazing piece of scenery. So just as a human being, I have a special connection that I just love everything to do with the animals. But on the dark side of it, when you see a slaughtered elephant, when you see them literally butchered just for their tusk and left to rot, it's hard to get that out of your brain, and just to understand that human beings are doing this. And from the rhinos, who are extremely endangered, we've gone from literally hundreds of thousands of elephants when I first started in Africa to literally 25, 30,000 in Tanzania alone. And so to see them decimated at those numbers, it's tragic, but it's big business.
Yeah, it is. And what I love about some of the success stories and the wins, if you will, when we're providing hope for Africa, is that many of these men and women who were former poachers are now the anti-poachers, who are protecting not just the wildlife, but also helping in those communities. So the ripple effect is quite amazing. And I'm probably sure you've seen a lot of that when you're in the field with them as well.
We have. I mean, think about this. If you have somebody who's making $100 a year, literally, and they're offered $500 to go slaughter an elephant or do whatever it is to take care of their family, understand they have zero interest in killing an animal. It's economics. And the idea that they can make a better than a year's wage doing this task, when understand this is a billions and billions of industry in the poaching. So for them to pay $500 and a year's salary is nothing. But the problem is it's those locals getting captured. They're the ones getting arrested, sometimes getting killed. And the guys that are behind it, they go scot-free. So that is a problem. So when they've been able to turn and become rangers themselves and they get jobs to stop poaching, it's a beautiful thing because it's sustainable, right? They now have a job for the next 10 years to support their family instead of doing these one-offs, and obviously end up where they're in jail and now they're away from the family, and the family's now, they're off worse than they were before. So it's been a beautiful thing to see, and it's a smart thing on the government's part to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great, and you're right. Even beyond that, they can provide not just for the family, but and all these other, wonderful wins and hopes for success and dreams, so they all can stand at their true heights and be self-determined. And you and I, we've seen those in a variety of capacities, not just on the community side, but also with these men and women who are protecting the wildlife and the people there. Any big success stories that come to mind? One of your favorite stories in the field with some of the anti-poaching scouts?
I remember the first time I did it, it was thrilling to be with the rangers out in Tarangire and some of these parks and to be in the plains and doing the scouting missions with them. And I'll tell you, when you get up in a plane, you realize how daunting this task is. Tanzania is huge. Kenya is huge. And you have just so much land to cover and so few people trying to do it. You realize this is a big task and you understand why the poachers get away with it so easily. So I love the fact that we've been able to increase the ranks. I love seeing women rangers now. That's something relatively new. And it's all hands on deck. Everybody understanding this isn't just a local problem to that community. It's a countrywide problem. It's a continent problem, and then it becomes a worldwide problem. And it definitely is, because when we're removing these species, the ecology changes, right? We need these animals to do what they do. And we have this huge disruption, but just bigger than that, we literally risk losing a population and an animal. And it's been tragic, but I'm pleased to say the tenor's changed. We're seeing growth and we're seeing numbers pop back up. And that's only happened because we've had communities now get involved.
I can't thank you enough for the caring and the sharing heart that you have for Africa, as we're beating the drums louder and louder through this event tonight. And I can see why they call you the Goodwill Ambassador for Tanzania, but you really do see that there's hope like we do. And it's an honor to have you alongside us, and we're looking forward to heading back to Africa together with you again soon.
I love it. Nothing better.
Thanks so much, Doug, for sharing your inspiration to us and hope for Africa. That was amazing. And now we're going to share some other stories of success and impact that's making a sustainable difference.
Yeah, this is the original Chronics from Spanish Town, Jamaica. And we are here live from home. You don't know, sending our love and our support to the rangers out there in Africa who, these people are standing right now at the heart of humanity and at the heart of the preservation of our natural life as human beings and for many creatures, And one of the things about being human is about using your strength and using your power of unity to bring about balance in creation. That is our natural duty. And as I said, these people standing at the heart of this concept of us maintaining and bringing about a balance where things have been thrown out of balance through greed and through other things like poaching and them things. See? So we stand with the Rangers, on the behalf of the young Rastafari community of the world, and especially on the behalf of the Core Foundation here in Jamaica, we really extend our support through our talent and through every way, man, every single way possible. And we are called upon the rest of the world as well and on the rest of humanity to join the support of these rangers and all the other organizations out there who are supporting the preservation and the rebalancing of nature and protecting some of our most endangered and precious creatures on the planet. So, big respect to the ranger them. When you know out there in the fields, remember say we are there with the eye them in the spirit, seeing, and in music and in song. Ace!
Reggae music!
pressures of a life, no, no. Run it again for the people. Skanking and recruiting, yeah. Skanking. Them say we lift it again, so we just lift it again. Skanking, recruiting, yeah. Under pressure. The pressures of a life and it's tough too. Now stay down, mama, time to get up. Now bother with the down, full style is strictly up, full of vibes. And when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due, yeah. But me try listen when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Light up a stick of them, skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel irate, yeah. Forget your troubles and rock with me. Feel a reggae music sweet, yeah, yeah. Was skanking sweet and everybody wanna feel high. Forget your troubles and rock with me. You know feel it. For every pain there's a melody, yeah. For every trouble there's a harmony that brings everything together. So make us sing together. And who said life not hard, oh yeah, yeah. Every man got this struggle, begging you help me, Lord. Let me overcome my troubles, skanking sweet, yeah. Everybody wanna feel everybody, and everybody, yeah. Reggae music sweet, well everybody wanna feel irate. Forget your troubles and say social distance. Them can't distance we. Like we a Jaja picnic in our heart. Them cannot distance we. None at all. So go and scam, bang bang, go and scam, what a bang bang, you go and scam, what a bang bang, ticky, when you ready, go and scam, go and rock, go and scam, just can't stop. What do they? Skanking street, everybody wanna feel like reggae. Forget your troubles and rock with me. And you know feel a reggae music sweet. Skanking, when everybody wanna feel like. Forget your troubles and rock with me. And you know feel a reggae music sweet. No. We skanking till the morning, until the day when my troubles are done. Oh no, grooving in a Jaja name, grooving all my troubles away. Yeah.
These animals absolutely need to be protected, because if there's none of them left, then there will be no reason for anyone to come here. So the tourism industry will collapse probably, certainly the tourism industry around safaris. And also these animals play a key part in maintaining this ecosystem. So without them, they don't fertilize the land will essentially lie fallow, and that's no good for anybody.
We've been seeing a lot of stories today about anti-poaching and the human-wildlife conflict, and that's happening right now. Stick with us. There's a lot more going on. Back to you, Josh.
Do not let that laugh fool you. Hyenas are amazingly intelligent creatures, yet their scientifically proven problem-solving skills don't mean anything when they are trapped in a poacher's snare, as many incidents have been reported during the pandemic. Hyenas are also known to possess unique immune systems, making them able to withstand diseases that often befell other animals. Their survival is key to understanding how we can protect all wildlife from such threats.
Now let's have a look at some of the effects of COVID.
Tommy, coronavirus, in many ways, I feel quite guilty talking about the challenges of coronavirus, because this is one area that we are not alone. People all over the world have really suffered because of coronavirus, but in the protection context, coronavirus has been devastating, simply because in many of these areas, tourism plays a crucial role in bringing income and therefore employment. And when tourism collapses, like it has pretty much all over the world, then employment collapses, and unfortunately in these areas people revert to poaching. So for example, this year we've seen a 57% increase in snaring compared to the same period last year. So it has had a fairly devastating effect. Snares are one of the most commonly used weapons in catching wild animals.
The global pandemic has affected people all over the world in different ways. Here at the Malangwi Trust and within my team, it hasn't had a huge impact. Fortunately, we're in a confined area, so we've managed to keep our guys safe. So nothing has really changed for us. In the beginning, when it started, we encouraged all our scouts to bring their families inside, which a majority of them did do. So they were in here for 3 or 4 months inside. These created a few challenges, obviously having to try and entertain them a little bit. Obviously they're in confined spaces in the camps, but this all worked very well. It was very good for morale, and it kept the scouts' morale up as well, knowing that their families were safe and inside as well. So yeah, generally it's worked out pretty well, and things haven't changed for us too much.
COVID had affected us so much because it had disturbed some of our operations, mainly the trains which we're using to deploy. It was 100% affected, though we managed to keep on deploying despite those challenges that were imposed by that COVID. I think it had affected us a lot.
Yeah, COVID is affected the families. My family is not working to school, so COVID has been a problem to me.
Also back home, I think it affected us a lot because our kids right now, they are not going to school. They are just seated at home, no learning. We are forced to pay some private teachers to conduct some extra lessons so that they can catch up with their syllabuses.
Yeah, we have got a hope. I think soon after this pandemic is over, I think everybody will be back to our normal duties and our normal life. So I've got a great hope of our future.
How has COVID affected anti-poaching efforts? Well, I think for a lot of parks it's been a very difficult issue because revenue's been dropping because tourists can't come to the areas. And when there's no income, they can't employ people properly. So without proper protection, these parks are suffering more substance poaching because people outside the parks are losing their jobs and they still need to put food on the table. So on the one hand, you see an increase of substance poaching. For now, poaching of the big five has dropped, but because people can't travel. But as soon as that picks up, most likely criminals will start focusing on killing more of the big five as well, and putting a lot of species in a very difficult situation.
So, hello everybody, Dave Matthews here. Hope everybody's doing all right. Got my COVID facial hair and my COVID top of my head. It's just everybody's just a general COVID situation and all that. But I'm happy to be here, and I hope everybody's doing all right. Right on. I'm gonna play some, and then I'll probably babble a little bit, and then maybe I'll play another song if you'll have me. Thank you, Paul. Directly. Thank you. Over and over again. Once upon a time, when the world was just a pancake, fears would arise that if we went too far, you'd fall. Yeah, but with the passage of time, the world became more of a ball, and we're as sure of that as we all once were when the world was flat. Oh, so I wonder, this is like billows smoke inside of my head, this little game where nothing is sure. Oh, tell me, why would I play by the rules? 'Cause you did very last dodo bird, and was she aware she was the very last one? Yeah, so I wonder who this is like below smoke inside of my head, this little game. Well, nothing is sure. Oh, tell me, why would you play by the rules? Oh, 'cause you did, you did, you. Yeah, who did, you did, you. Yeah, who did, you did, you. If all the things that you are saying now, oh yeah, what's true enough, and to what is all the worrying about? If we can't work it out, no, we can't work it, so I wonder who this is like below smoke inside my head, this little game. Well, nothing is sure. Oh, tell me, why should I play by the rules? Who did, you did, you. Who did, you did, you. Who did, you did, you. So, I haven't played that song very often at all, and so I'm amazed that I made my way through it. But I put it in there because I liked the one line. I thought it was appropriate. When was she killed? The very last dodo bird. And was she aware, which she probably wasn't, that she was the very last one? So, I get choked up when I think about what I'm going to leave my children. And I get angry when I think about the things that I might have seen had human beings not been so brash and callous with our treatment of the planet and our illusion, or the illusion that it was everlasting and never ending. And the more that we carry on in the world the way we do, it stuns me that we don't seem to embrace the fact that this limited resource, this planet, this little tiny blue planet, is getting less and less capable of sustaining us. And yet we expand and expand our hunger for more. And those few wild places that are left, we treat brazenly and as if they will never, never run out. Even though the lesson again and again and again is that they will. And they will quickly. And it's not to take away from what beautiful and amazing creatures we are. But if we really are as clever as we sometimes like to think, we should be working wholeheartedly to try and effect a change that will make it possible for our children and our children's children to survive on this planet. That's what's at stake. You know, it's not a debate. Climate change isn't a debate. The burning planet is not a debate. All these things are real. And the rash way that we exploit our resources is unbelievable when you just look at it. Individually, we may be smart, but as a collective, boy, do we seem stupid. We behave as a group like cancer behaves. Eat, 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 eat until the host is devoured. I don't say we need to walk around and be sad, because that's pointless too. No matter how many tears we cry, it will not fix the problem. So, why do I obsess about rhinos, Paul? Paul obsesses about rhinos too. I think they're a great example. They're not the brightest animals. They are no elephants. They also have funny noses, which is kind of accurate, but inaccurate really. But they do look funny, prehistoric. But they strike me because they are so in the balance of our collective consciousness. They are so in danger of being eradicated from the planet because of greed. That's it. It's not the greed of the person who poaches. It's not the greed. It's just the greed across the planet. Somebody's going to pay a lot of money to get a horn of a rhino or the tusk of an elephant. But that's just sort of the bleeding sore in a way. We need to make the number one priority in the world taking care of this planet. So then we can live better, in more balance, with more joy, and give something to our children that they can give to their children. And we can prosper without all the excess that we want, the more and the more and the more. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs it. We need to find a balance. And so let's work toward that in every way we can. So we can avoid pandemics, and we can avoid rising oceans, and we can avoid, wildfires and insane storm seasons, and that maybe we can think about educating ourselves and educating our children, and looking after the planet. And I want my great-grandchildren to be able to see a rhinoceros in the flesh rather than just on a video. You all, thank you so much. Paul Jones, you are awesome, and I am grateful for many reasons for you, and thanks everybody so much.
So we've seen how COVID is just affecting us all over the world, and it trickles down, to small communities in Africa and rangers that work within those communities, and then the wildlife itself. What's happening in Africa is really so sad, because unlike here in the U.S., where we have these giant tracts of, U.S. Forest Service, BLM, national parks, they all sort of are, it's just part of our government. We don't actually pay for that stuff. Whereas in Africa, the wildlife has to pay for itself. And the way that happens is through tourism, people coming and spending money in fees to be in the parks or the reserves, and then the camps, supporting all the staff through the money that it costs to stay there. Same with guides and, to some degree, rangers as well. So with no tourism taking place, all that money disappears. And those people who are actually the biggest advocates for wildlife, the people that are bringing home money back to their communities and helping, they actually are the best advocates for these protected places and wildlife, because they're seeing direct benefits from it. And that trickles down across the whole community. But when there's no tourism, it's actually a really big problem, because there's no money coming in, and people start to wonder whether the wildlife is worth keeping. So, yes, I think it's really, really important that if you can, that you can help contribute at this time is perhaps more important than ever.
So consider donating early. People can even text to give. Text Rangers to 1-833-968-1234. Before COVID-19, Africa was the second fastest growing region for tourism. Now 74% of that business is gone, and 8 million jobs have been lost, of which rangers and other conservation jobs are a subset. COVID-19 has created a perfect storm of reduced funding, leading to elevated human threats on nature. As these biodiversity threats have increased, so too do conservation costs just when the money is at its lowest. This is exactly why we are coming together to help our rangers and create new resilient conservation models.
We have another great friend joining us today. You may know him from 10 Things I Hate About You. You may know him from Broken Hearts Club. He likes to talk about his most brilliant role to date as dad. And he's going to share with us how he is sharing with his 4.5-year-old daughter how to approach the world. And I think that's a really important lesson. And I can't wait for you to meet Andrew Keegan. Andrew Keegan, thank you so much for joining us at Endangered Rangers. I've long been a fan, and it's really refreshing to chat with you about what's going on in the world right now. And our event is about what's happening in Africa, and it's about supporting the rangers who are protecting our natural treasures, and those are the endangered species. And I thought it would be really interesting for people to know that you have a young daughter. And it would be really interesting to understand how you are teaching her at this age and what's going on in the world, how to appreciate the planet. What are the things that you're doing so that it's not specific to Africa, it's just about how her generation, who may never see elephants possibly, because they may be gone in 10 years. How do you teach your daughter about what's going on in the world?
Well, of course, we live in a digital age, and we're constantly having content available, the Discovery Channel, and you know, obviously there's animals and cartoons. But I think on a day-to-day basis, I really think it's the general concept of kindness. And I think anyone who's a parent who has a small child can either direct a child to ways to behave in the general senses, even with other people. But, you know, as I was even thinking about it, you know, the other morning she came in, there's a spider in the bathtub, you know, and sometimes people may just default to just like, oh, kill it, it's a bad thing. But I think it starts at such a small level that we need to, you know, be able to explain that, you know, this is a being of sorts. This is part of our ecosystem. And when you speak of the elephants on a larger level, you know, there are different ways people obviously, you know, they grow up and they hunt and those things. And I think we're at a time now where we really need to consider preservation and like what's going on in Africa. If we don't, then we're going into the model of destruction. And I think that we see that that's an unsustainable model. And so, you know, again, kindness, being loving, being understanding, being accepting of all things. And as the work that you guys are doing, we're just so grateful for, because it is true. It is true that in very, very few years, we've lost so many different animals, and now elephants. Like, how do I, you know, it's a great question. I can't explain that. And that's why it is so important, the work that you all are doing, and that we all, as a society, do our best to impart this kind of wisdom, that we need to be kind, and we need to be doing our best to preserve animals and not hunt, for example, and you know, be more loving in our world. We need that.
That's wonderful. It's important because we really are the last generation that can do anything about this. Like I said, an elephant is killed every 15 minutes, which is a fact I don't like sharing, and I don't go off to my nieces and nephews and be like, hey, did you know this? So how do how does one, deal with that? Because I don't have children, but I want to be able to educate them. I see the rangers in Africa, and they have their daily patrols. They have their jobs detecting and tracking, but they also work with the community, and they do a lot of educational programs with them. I think that's really important for everybody to bring that even into the schools, into a lot of the organizations where people can, share that knowledge, because right now, maybe our voices are not the ones that are actually resonating. I actually think I know it's going to be your daughter. Those are the voices, and they understand that right now. So that's what we're trying to do, is just raise awareness to these issues, because we need more voices.
Well, of course, I just watched the documentary about Greta Thunberg and this very young, I think 14, 15. And it's amazing to see how much a young girl, a daughter, a child to the sort of, age that she is, create such a movement. And of course, her movement is climate change, which is all inclusive, and her ability to communicate that. And it is true, that it is their generation that will carry on this message that we need to do more. It's funny. I took my daughter to school today, and she was very fascinated with this book about animals from Oregon. I was filming up in Oregon, and we did go to a zoo. And again, I struggle with that because it's sort of this. I remember we saw a gorilla, and it's just like seeing any animal in a cage. But then there is some benefit, of course, to seeing them, and then they can understand. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. I struggle with it, and it's not. I don't know there's a right answer.
No, well, you're bringing up a really good point, because it's not a hop, skip, and a jump for you guys to get over to Africa or get over to Southeast Asia and see a lot of the things going on. So what's something that you and the people who are with us today can relate to? Well, those are zoos, and there's so many of them that are sort of recalibrating and repositioning themselves because they genuinely at their core are conservation entities. They're all about preservation. There's a segment we're sharing with folks about Eric the Rhino. He came from the San Diego Zoo, and we flew him to one of our properties in Tanzania, and he's helping bring back the black rhino. So there's so many of these synergies, these partnerships, and especially since we're sitting here in North America, in California, we've got the LA Zoo. That's the first line of defense and the first line of education. So the fact that we don't know that, I think that's our responsibility to get recalibrated, change that perspective, especially for that next generation, if that's going to be what they see. Because it would be tragic if all they ended up seeing years from now was a hologram. I want them to see the pure joy on an elephant's face. And once I saw that for the first time, I was sold. I went, this is too late in my life. I got to help others to do that. But the voice of the Gretas, the voices of our friend Kate Gilman-Williams will be joining us as well, who wrote a book about going on safari, about understanding snares and ivory teeth in a rhino and the keratin horn of a rhino, the ivory tusks of a hippo. It's fascinating how much they retain. I can only imagine what your daughter spits back at you in an average day of what she's seen.
4.5 going on, 15. It's quite amazing. But, I think it's inherent within a young child to go either way, right? They can be destructive in nature, because that's part of our, obviously, sort of infrastructure, if you will. Or they can lean into the kindness and the love. And so, as you all are doing that, I think that's the message that is so important for people that are perhaps watching this and that are kind of in between. It starts at the very small level to treat everything with kindness, every, little animal, and certainly the sort of large animals at this point certainly need our attention. And I'm just really grateful to be a part of this, to share and lend a little voice to what you all are doing. And I know you're carrying quite the weight of being able to stop something that's such a large movement, but they're out there risking their lives, and they need to be commended for that.
That means a lot. It's about helping the people and that connection and being kind to them, because with COVID, it just amplified what was already a challenging space for them to work in. And yes, everyone has some connection to an animal, but this is about being kind to the people first. And if you're kind to them and build that community, they're the ones who are going to protect and safeguard the animals. And so they're the conduit, they're the peacekeepers. And you put it beautifully. It's about kindness.
And really, yes, and understanding at this point and information. And so to everybody that may be watching this, first of all, super grateful we're here around the holidays. And it's let's give the animals this gift of freedom to be able to roam without threat, and to support those who protect them. And again, so grateful to you for allowing me to just join here for a few minutes. And invite me to Africa. I would love to come and see that part of the world. So
it is a magical place, and it is a thriving place. And we, the people there, everybody should get an opportunity to come. So we welcome you to come to see what we're going to, the money we're raising today is actually really going to be implemented in programs of Rhino relocation and equipping the rangers and getting canine units and just making sure we have that infrastructure so you can come and enjoy. So I can't wait for you to join us.
Everybody out there heard that. Donate the money. Just do it. It's the holidays. If you've got it, please give freely and with that kindness in mind. So again, I encourage everyone to do that and support this wonderful cause. And I thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And look forward to seeing the whole program continue, and have a great time with everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Andrew talks about kindness. And if you look at everything that we're doing, it comes down to that one fundamental truth. How do you be kind to people? How do you be kind to animals? It's really not that hard. And if we look at this next generation, they're going to be the voices for those that can't speak for themselves, and those are the animals. So it was a blessing to have Andrew join us today.
I wanted to do something to tell my generation how they can help save animals. So I wrote a book called Let's Go on Safari. My book takes kids and families on a safari adventure. But most importantly, it teaches them how to take action to save wildlife in wild spaces.
On a day-to-day basis, our scouts face many challenges, which differ from day to day, but generally, very physical. Operating in high temperatures up to 44 degrees is one of the biggest challenges, and then also your everyday dangers of wild animals. We've had a few incidents over the years, fortunately not too many. But dangers of buffaloes is the main one, black and white rhino, elephants, lions. So those are everyday occurrences for us, and obviously with experience, the team learn how to deal with all of those. And then the main one is dealing with armed insurgents, which we've learned to trained and learned to deal with. So those are the main challenges every day.
All right, donations are coming in, looking good, people.
To give you an idea of what we're doing to protect the animals and the ecosystem, we have a multifaceted operation here involving many different moving parts, all coordinated by an operations room. There's a military theme to it, and this enables us to be able to conduct anti-poaching operations very efficiently, and also making sure that the whole picture isn't known to everybody. That's very important. So, what one part does not necessarily mean that the other part knows what's going on. And of course, any sound modern anti-poaching strategy has to involve the members of the community that surround these protected areas. They need to see the benefit of protecting these animals, and so that is what the Grimedi Fund has been particularly good at doing, is involving the members of the community, and therefore they see a benefit, and that's what helps to protect these areas.
To emphasize on what Wesley mentioned earlier about not everyone knowing everything at the same time, this is where the JOC, Joint Operations Center, comes into play, whereby all information is collected at the JOC and disseminated to the right people. And this enables these departments to work jointly.
The leopards. They are as hard to find as toilet paper at Costco these days, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hoard you too. You're too important to keeping the right balance of species in your local area. You do make it hard for the rangers to keep an eye on you since you do a lot of roaming. Conservationists are building habitat corridors through farms and cities just for you and your friends.
I think also with what we've done with getting families and that, it's helped a lot with morale. We've also made sure that we've got around a bit more. We've been doing refresher courses and training with our scouts during the pandemic, getting them in. Obviously, we're one big happy family, so bringing sort of 10, 15 scouts in at a time to do refresher training and giving them time to also socialize and see each other again has been a big thing for us and helped us to manage the whole situation.
Hey, we're on our way to first aid kits, new uniforms, and boots.
Let's have a look at what's going on with the Rhino project.
I'm bringing on our friend, Carolyn Hennessy. You may recognize her from General Hospital. She just finished filming her 500th episode, if you can believe it. I know her well from True Blood. I'm a huge fan of hers, but mostly because I know her also from her podcast called Animal Magnetism. She is a huge animal advocate. She helps people understand the real world problems in conservation and how to apply real world solutions. Please join me in welcoming Carolyn Hennessy. Carolyn, thank you so much for hello.
Hello.
So nice to have you here finally.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Truly.
Thank you so much. You're a full-time animal advocate. I know you dabble in some acting, so
yeah, really, I have to pay the bills, and animal advocacy. It's the passion, but it's
They say be a doctor, a lawyer, animal.
We don't go into it for the money. We just don't go into it for the money. We go into it for the passion. So fortunately, I have, I'm only really able to get work as an actor. So that's what I do.
I hate seeing you suffer. So
it's true, but anything for those animals, anything.
But that's what we do, and that's what I'm so excited to chat with you about today, because you are, and you put it this way, an animal advocate, which how you've said it in the past and how I've connected to it is looking at it from the perspective of real world problems to solve, to bring real world solutions to them.
Absolutely.
And so we just met, full transparency, everybody watching, but
we're like sisters now.
I know.
How did that happen?
Amazing.
I get you.
Where did your passion come from? Because some people like animals, but then there are people who actually understand about conservation, preservation, and then some. Where did that come from? Right.
About 14 years ago, when I first got onto General Hospital, believe it or not, I was sent, because of a fairly large Twitter presence and a large Twitter following, I was sent a video by a well-meaning Twitter follower. Mm-hmm. And the caption underneath it was, boycott Ringling Brothers. They're cruel to their elephants. And there was a video, and I watched the video, and without even thinking, I retweeted it, and I said, boycott Ringling Brothers. They're cruel to their elephant. And a man contacted me through various channels and said, and he was the curator of the Wildlife World Zoo and Aquarium outside of Litchfield Park in Arizona, and his name is Gray Stafford. He has since become my advocacy mentor and one of my very best friends. And he also happens to be a fan of General Hospital and his wife. So, which I tease him mercilessly. So he said, and he's been a trainer at SeaWorld. He's very high up in the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and IMATA, the International Marine Mammals Trainers Association. And so he said, thank you so much for your voice as a celebrity. We need more people like you on the front lines and understand. However, you might want to know this. Ringling Brothers has the best elephant breeding program in the contiguous United States. Yep. That video that you posted, you retweeted without getting the facts, is 25 years old, and they do not treat their elephants with anything approaching that. I mean, they're actually very good to their elephants, or they were before they were forced to disband. And so he laid out the facts for me that I'd gotten it all wrong. And I said, okay, I did that thing. I did that thing that I hate. When anyone does it, and that is you speak without knowing the facts. And if you're somebody that has a bit of a voice and that voice can carry you, it is incumbent upon you to understand what you're saying, have the facts ready at your disposal. And so I said, I will never make that mistake again. And so I said, I want you to talk to me about this, about elephants, about that versus what they're doing now. And in all of those revelatory conversations, I realized that this was one of my parallel callings.
Yeah.
There's acting, forget the entertainment industry, but there's acting and then there's animal advocacy, because it's giving a voice to the voiceless and understanding that they don't need us. They don't need us at all. They'd be better off without us, certainly, but we so need them.
Yeah.
We so need them. For myriad reasons. And I just felt the embers, because I've always loved, pets, dogs, cats, loved going to the zoo. I love our Los Angeles Zoo. It's such an incredible modern zoo. It's wonderful. But, with the advent of everyday life, you kind of, things get tamped down. So 14 years ago, this spark was fanned into flame again, and it's burning bright. So
yeah, no, it's a similar trajectory for myself, and there were signals along the way, and until honestly a business opportunity sort of married with my passion for preservation, conservation, rescue. I went, wait a minute, why can't I apply my business skills and my knowledge of technology and try to complement what's been done in the past and try and bring that to the table. And I'm still learning, and I'm relatively new to the industry, if you will, but it's a lovely one where a lot of the programs that depend on the rangers, which is why we're here today, require collaboration, one of which is population and survival programs, bringing species back. It's so much harder to bring species back than to get rid of them. Not what we want to be doing.
Oh, of course. It takes seconds to extinguish a life, and it takes months and months and months, and for gestation, and this is if the male and the female actually like each other of any given species, and then you've got to wait and you've got to care for it, and the cycle takes decades, and again only a split second to extinguish something so incredibly beautiful. But yes, you're right, and I think we're going to see a wonderful video about Eric the Rhino.
Yes,
and this. This is what I wish everyone on the planet understood about modern zoos and aquariums, and that most of them, the really great ones, and there are lots of them, have these international programs, these international preservation and conservation programs. And so Eric the Rhino came from Southern California, where I'm sure he would not be basking in the sun, and was taken.
He left San Diego. Perfect weather.
Yeah, exactly. And was taken to Africa, and where he now has a girlfriend. But this is a joint program, San Diego, Africa, and they're trying to repopulate the eastern black rhino. Right? It's the eastern black rhino, because I think we lost
correct. It's the East African black rhino.
We lost the last western black rhino, I believe. Yep. I think it was like 7-8 years ago. Yep. Very, very sad. So there's so few eastern black rhinos, and zoos all over the world, in conjunction with each other and in concert with so many other organizations. Zoos are not just places for dads to take their kids on Saturday, so while the wives are, doing something else.
They're not theme parks anymore. They're
not even really. They are the last arcs of preservation, as far as I'm concerned. They are mandatory. And so with them working alone and then internationally, that's the thing that I think the other side is not cognizant of. And I believe that if they understood the global reach of some of these programs and the endeavor to save so many species, I think that there would be a down of the activist rhetoric. At least that I believe that, and kind of then work together and further these programs. But these programs only work if we're sending something back into quote unquote the wild, or into what would have been the natural habitat. They only work if these species are protected.
Yes,
that's it. And with, let's just start off with the most recent, and that's COVID-19, and the fact that there are countries. Let's just say China. We'll take a random sampling from our file. That believe that a rhino horn or elephant tusk or pangolin scales or a tiger penis, that they will use that as medicine, and that somehow this has curative properties. They don't.
Right.
These things don't. And that way of thinking is archaic. It's almost Neanderthal-ish, and needs to be stopped. We can't legislate the way people think, but we can do something to keep them from getting their hands on items that will result in you can only get via the result of an animal.
There's a flow. There's supply and demand, and where we stand right now is on the supply side. And so by bringing in the tools, the equipment, starting with literally the boots on the rangers' feet, to their gear, to their first aid kits, then into these programs, which range from bringing in integrated data collection solutions to the Rhino relocation programs.
Right.
That's what we can control, because we can't. I don't want to speak on behalf of what's happening elsewhere, because we can't control that.
No, we can't. But we can. The fact that we cannot legislate demand. We cannot control that at all.
Right.
But the fact that there's so many factors going into the equation of why people want what they want, misguided as it might be, it just exacerbates the need that for us to get those rangers their socks and get them their water bottles and get them the highest, and get them the weapons that they do need. Sad to say, but they do need weapons. They need night gear. They need night vision goggles. They need everything that we can possibly get them to keep these animals until there is a global or countrywide in other countries.
I'm just going to take you to every meeting that I have with every technology company, with every protected area, because you have encapsulated it so perfectly for us. And I am excited that now people understand these collaborations between the zoos and international organizations, and they're going to see the great piece about Eric the Rhino, which is a great success story. And I know when we have our next Endangered Rangers event, you have to come back, and I'm excited to be your third co-host of your podcast. So I'm very excited about it. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not sure you noticed, she may have an opinion or two. Carolyn Hennessy, you are a treasure. Thank you so much. Let's go check out that video.
As the president and CEO of San Diego Zoo Global, I am proud of our commitment to save species worldwide. As a conservation organization with two front doors, the San Diego Zoo and the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, we both recognize our roles in providing sanctuary for wildlife by preserving biodiversity to recover ecosystems in the future. Our work with Eric the Rhino is a perfect example of this kind of contribution to species recovery. Eric is a black rhino that was born and raised here at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. We work with Eric to prepare him to adapt to living in native habitats so that he could be an integral part of an effort to rebuild black rhino populations. And when Eric returned to Tanzania, he did just that. He became an important individual to the herd of black rhino, and we were able to reintroduce genetic diversity back into the region which had previously been lost. Collaboration is key to all successful conservation programs, and we appreciate the work of the community in Tanzania, Grumeti, and Vulcan in providing ongoing protection and care for Eric. Thank you.
Corona 3
success story that we've had to date, certainly since I've been here, is the successful translocation of 9 critically endangered eastern black rhino back into the Ikarongo-Grumeti concessions. There hasn't been any of these animals here for decades, and in 2019 the team at the Grumeti Fund, together with our Tanzanian government partners, brought these animals back, and they are flourishing and doing very well. So that's a great success story. Stop.
In Africa, it is too late for the western black rhino, as they went extinct in 2011. And it is incredible to know that there are only 2 northern white rhino left under protection in Kenya. There is hope. There were only 20 southern white rhinos in the early part of this century, but through successful programs, they have reached almost 20,000. And the northern black rhino, although on the critically endangered list, has seen an increase from 2,500 in 1995 to 5,000 today through persistent conservation efforts.
Rhinos. Rhinos are an amazing species. When I was a kid, there were rhinos all over the place, and they were actually considered to be quite dangerous because, probably the most aggressive animal out there in the bush was a rhino. But sadly, when I was a teenager, rhinos started to disappear. And my father was working in conservation, so I was able to go out and see the effects of the poaching that was taking place. And nothing will stick with you like the sight of a dead rhino, with only thing missing is his horn knocked off. And it's just very, very sad. In those days, starting in like 1977, rhinos just started to disappear, and they were taken out across much of Africa, down to the point where they were almost extinct. But then through conservation, we were able to slowly bring rhinos back. And in places where they're heavily protected with armed rangers, they've actually done okay. They've come back in a lot of places. And so all that effort has been done, again, with the help of money that's come from tourism. And without tourism now, because of COVID, really big problem, because the funds are running out to protect things like rhinos. Rhinos, their horns, their horn is worth more than its weight in gold. And so you can imagine the, desire for the wrong people to acquire that horn so they can sell it. And it takes a lot of money to protect rhinos. It takes a lot of rangers, and it's just something that if we're going to have rhinos around in the future, we really need to give it up for rhinos now. So I hope that you guys can all help and contribute to saving rhinos now. Back to you, Josh.
And one of my favorites. Let's have a look at what's going on with the Elephant Project next.
I'm Deborah Messing, and for those of you who may not know, my love and respect for elephants has taken me all over the world. I've been to many elephant rescues in Laos, Thailand, and in Africa. Maybe even too many. I am beyond grateful for the work these sanctuaries do, but I wish they were overrun with children and adults from all over the world who come to learn about how we can live in harmony with wildlife, but without having to show them an orphaned baby elephant to teach these lessons. One of the most effective ways to make this dream a reality is to be proactive and get ahead of the threats which lead to orphaned elephants, rhinos, and more. We can do this by ensuring that the wildlife rangers who deter and detect poaching activity are provided for, especially now during the pandemic. COVID-19 has cut off the revenue from tourism that supported these men and women. Jobs have been lost, and those remaining on the front lines are stretched thin, covering more ground with less people and resources, while poaching has surged. We can't let the pandemic set back all the progress that has been made in conservation. We can't put these peacekeepers' lives at increased risk. And we absolutely can't risk expediting already ominous timelines before all the elephants disappear. Right now, an elephant is killed every 15 minutes, which means that we have about a decade left before they're all gone. My friends at Endangered Rangers are committed to stopping poaching in our lifetime. I am too. Thank you for your support.
They say an elephant never forgets, which I believe to be true. Let's all do our part to never forget our large mammal friends and donate to help protect them today.
Eliminating poaching in Africa or anywhere in the world, unfortunately, is a pipe dream. But what we can do is continue to have that dream and endeavor to achieve that aim, to stop poaching outright. But if we're to do this, and if we're ever to succeed at this, we have to make sure that we involve the people that come from these areas and get them on side and get them to see the benefit of having animals live as opposed to dead.
As a photographer now, I wonder whether the fact that our generation has mishandled the biodiversity of our planet will be our lasting legacy. Not information technology, but the fact that majestic animals such as the elephant, the rhino, and the lion should face extinction during our watch. We don't own this planet, we rent it, and we rent it with these majestic animals that manifestly we have disturbed. Animals such as Tim, who sadly passed away through old age last year in Amboseli. For me, working with these creatures is one of the greatest privileges of my life. I think there's so many areas of conservation that are open to debate. The abolition of hunting, for instance, is a very contentious subject. Whether habitat loss is a bigger issue than climate change. Whether human footfall, tourist footfall, is a good thing or a bad thing. Incidentally, it is a very good thing. But I think one thing that we are all agreed about is that without rangers, we have no hope. And rangers have been under a huge amount of pressure in 2020. I've seen it firsthand. Because there have been no flights in the sky, because there have been no park entry fees, because there have been no tourists, no tips, and in the majority of African countries, no welfare state safety net, no furlough schemes. It has been the perfect storm for conservation, partly because so many people have had to live suboptimal lives in Africa, but also charities have suffered in 2020 because this has been our generation's war. COVID has meant that we've perhaps had to look after ourselves, maybe more than look after other people or other things. When I travel around the national parks of America, I and others could be forgiven for thinking that some of the people, some of the wardens, some of the marshals in these national parks, they might be young people and they put on a bit of uniform, and then that suddenly connotes power. And sometimes we have to be a little bit careful between differentiating and comparing a warden, for instance, in Yellowstone National Park, who may be only doing a university job or an internship job during college, with a ranger that is on the front line in Africa. This next picture of Tim and Craig's who's superseded him now is perhaps the most famous elephant in the world. There's only 21 big tuskers left. Craig's on the right, and his right tusk, or left as we look at it, is actually bigger than Tim's. These are majestic animals, and their union with the rangers, I might argue, and I could argue with a great deal of confidence, is a damn sight tighter than the relationship between a warden and a bison in Yellowstone Park. These are men that wear the uniform with pride and honor and risk. And we owe it to them to do everything that we can do to help this year. That, by the way, is to me a favorite image of mine. To get 2 or 3 of the biggest elephants coming towards me on the ground is a once in a lifetime experience. The next picture shows a herd of elephant going through an abandoned village or game reserve, hotel, lodging, with Kilimanjaro behind. You could argue it's quite apposite for 2020, given I wondered what it would look like if man had left the earth and all that survived were the elephants that perhaps we hadn't been looking after so well in the first place. So it's a slightly metaphorical image for 2020. We just prayed that the elephant herd would come through the abandoned lodge, and lo and behold, they did. Here's another picture of Craig with Kilimanjaro in the background. I tend to want to work as closely as possible. Now, the thing that unites all those 4 pictures of elephants in Amboseli is that the rangers of the KWS were working with me. I could not do my job in Amboseli were it not for the KWS and their rangers. And a lot of people might not know this, but in Amboseli, through the help of a lot of charitable foundations, some run by artists and helped by artists like my fellow photographer Nick Brandt, who's made a big difference through the Big Life Foundation. If it weren't for the rangers and the people that support them, Amboseli wouldn't be the paragon, the model of excellence in conservation that it is. Not one elephant has been poached in Amboseli in 6 years. And this is the crown jewel of the elephant kingdom. But poachers haven't got nearby because their numbers are exceeded by the rangers. If that wasn't the case, elephants like Craig would die from old age. Here's a group of mothers and babies going through that just wonderful elemental ecosystem with Kilimanjaro in the back. It is one of nature's great spectacles. And at the end of a day like that, when I look back, it would be wrong for me to acknowledge the fact that were it not for the platform of protection provided by the KWS, I wouldn't have a chance to take that in the first place.
An elephant is killed every 15 minutes. That means by the end of your day, nearly 100 will be gone. By the end of the year, over 30,000. The African elephant has less than 10 years left on this planet. We should never have to imagine a world without them. So consider donating early. People can even text to give. Text Rangers to 1-833-968-1234.
They say elephants never forget, and I do believe that's true. I've had the pleasure of working with elephants throughout my adult career on a lot of elephant films, and I can tell you for sure that some elephants I've come to know over time. And as I said before, my older sister has been studying elephants for about 45 years in the wild, and there are many elephants that she knows extremely well. So as individuals, and they know her too, this is the cool thing about elephants, and to have been so privileged to have spent that time with elephants is something I wish that I could impart to everybody. But anyway, elephants, when I was a kid, they roamed freely all over East Africa where I was raised. And now, between the ivory poaching and the loss of habitat, it's really sad to see the situation for elephants right now. In fact, I'd say it's dire. You know, we're watching like some of these giant ecosystems like the Serengeti get encroached upon from almost all sides now. And these elephants are accustomed to moving over great amount of space. And, you know, it's not just that they need to stay in one, they need to migrate from one area to another. So we have to think in conservation about protecting lots of land that's left, and in particular corridors. And all this stuff, connecting these protected areas together through corridors is what's going to save elephants. And a lot of these new technologies are helping us to figure out where those corridors are. And luckily, they're usually in places that are already protected in one way or another. So it is possible to keep this stuff open, but it's going to take a lot of effort, and especially now where money is tight because of COVID, it's really important that if you care about these things, that you really chip in and help us out. Back to you, Josh.
There's some really interesting stuff going on with the canine units. Let's see what they're doing.
Hello, I'm Loretta Swit, and I'd like to share how important our canine units are in the war against poaching. The detection and tracking dogs have proven themselves to be incredible deterrents. The dogs are trained to detect illegally trafficked wildlife products, and at the same time, they also put their own lives on the line tracking down poachers. COVID has stretched our budgets thin, but ensuring that the dogs and handlers have the best care and shelter and food and training is not something that the endangered rangers are willing to sacrifice. They're not willing to give that up, and neither am I, and neither is Sweetheart Animal Alliance. And to that end, we're sending you a $250 check to continue the wonderful work that you do. I'm begging you to be generous with your donations. We need your support. We need you to care. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
My first trip to Africa, I immediately was overtaken by the migration. But very, very quickly, I was introduced to the poaching world. Got to see firsthand the damage that was actually done.
With the ivory crisis and a global crisis in trafficked illegal wildlife products, dogs are a big part of the solution.
For eons of time, the domestic dog and humans have been interactive and together.
These 4 dogs were all rescued from the States because many of these dogs would have been euthanized had they not been given a job, and channel all that energy into something meaningful.
From the minute those dogs stepped off the airplane at Sisakwe airstrip, that was the start of a form of prevention. Animals being killed at the hands of poachers.
They can do things that people just simply can't do.
Just the mere deterrent factor, people knowing that there are dogs operating, and the element of the unknown. You just need to enjoy 1 or 2 successes where a dog will indicate on an elephant tusk in someone's house. Word quickly gets around.
And the one thing about Grimeti that I haven't seen in some other programs is that long-lasting push of not just we want this to work, but this has to work.
Protected areas are under massive, massive strain throughout the continent, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of good work. What really drives us here at the Singida Grimeti Fund is our need to learn and collaborate with people that have been there and done that.
So many people just don't understand that these precious animals that so many people want to see are going away quickly.
Having a canine unit here on the ground in the short space of time that we have is really motivating for us. There's no end to the plans that you can make and the strategies you can adopt to try and make a difference here. We need to be as quick as possible.
My name is Mgoy Rugatiri. I'm working at the K9 unit. I like the dog. I like my job.
Working Dogs for Conservation. Our role here is to help the Grimeti Fund to start their canine program.
The dogs that would help us to stop poaching here.
Yeah, we got 4 dogs. We got Rada, we got DJ, we got Popo, and we got
Tony.
We rescue the dogs that we train. These 4 dogs were all really skinny, really emaciated, and they've been starved of human attention, and now taking advantage of that rescue to rescue a whole bunch of wildlife. It's a cool thing to be part of. One animal does something amazing in service of these other animals that are amazing.
We've been thinking about the concept for a while. 2 very generous donors made it happen for us really quickly. They enabled us to get the dogs trained in the States and bring them out to Tanzania with the trainers from the States in order to select and train our dog handlers on the ground here. We've been very fortunate to have a guy like Mgoye with us. He actually has a background in equestrian management.
I got a big experience for animals, and I'm good for veterinary.
Dogs have the ability to track anything.
These are the training samples. We got ivory. You can see it's been inventoried. We've got ammo and bushmeat. To be able to walk, to watch your pace, to tell the dog, direct the dog, to watch the dog's behavior, it's like juggling 6 balls at once, and they're doing great.
When you start training the dog, you must be happy every time, and the dog going to working well.
And there Tony gets his reward. He's proud of himself. That's pretty good. The end point, where we're trying to get, is for each dog to have its primary handler and for those 2 to have a really tight bond.
They understand me. All 4, they understand me. If there is no money, I still work with the dog because I like the animals.
We've moved from strength to strength over the last 3 weeks with this program, and we continue to grow. That deterrent associated with the work of the dogs will go a long way in shutting down ivory syndicates that are operating around here.
One of the moving parts that I alluded to earlier is the Canine unit. Canine unit helps to create efficiency. Our Canine unit here is a detection as well as a tracking Canine unit, and so we are able to track poachers from the scene of a crime to perhaps where they are staying or camping, and we're able to do this very quickly with the aid of a Canine unit or of a dog. Equally, detection. These dogs are trained to detect 7 objects, including rhino horn, elephant tusk, pangolin scale, weapons, ammunition. So they help to find these articles far quicker than a human can do it, and that adds a great deal of efficiency. It's a very, very important part of our operation is the Canine unit.
Wild dogs, or otherwise known as painted dogs, once roamed Africa as a pack of 500,000. Now there are less than 7,000. They are some of the most social and fiercely family-focused species on the planet. And they are also fierce predators, making them targets for farmers, protecting their livestock when the dogs aren't getting caught in the poacher's snares. Anti-poaching units spend their time collecting snares and educating locals on the dog's value to the ecosystem.
Dogs are our best friend, and they may be becoming wildlife's best friend too. In Africa, they have what they call sniffer dogs, and they're pretty effective at tracking down poachers. And they're quite effective at becoming actually a deterrent to poaching as well, because people are pretty terrified of dogs. So yeah, hopefully you can support us in supporting those dogs in Africa too, the dogs for conservation. Back to you, Josh.
Let's have a look at how education plays a key role in the overall picture.
One of the success stories of the Grimetti Fund is that we've been able to take poachers and turn them into anti-poachers or into rangers. And, poachers have many of the traits that one requires to be an anti-poacher. They have a sound knowledge of the ground. They understand animal movements. Being poachers, they understand poacher tactics. And they're also very brave people and can live in very hardy conditions. And these are all qualities that are needed in a ranger. So over a period of time, we take these poachers, we train them up, and educate them about the benefits of saving or protecting animals. And it's a great success story because you're seeing someone come full circle.
And I also totally agree with what Wesley mentioned earlier, that we actually need to get the community involved if conservation in Africa is to be successful. And this also includes working with the youth. So, for instance, Grumeti Fund normally hosts the career fairs, and it's very rewarding for me to take part of it, whereby these girls from secondary schools who come and explore different careers in conservation, and this is really helpful to them to realize that there are more careers in conservation than being a game scout or a game warden and all the rest of it. So I think that is so important to work with the youth so that we can have more conservation success stories.
In my view, poaching of wildlife will never stop in Africa. This largely been due to unemployment and poverty caused by the unemployment. I think the best we can do is try and slow it down as best we can. At Malangwi Trust, to do this, we've employed a lot of ex-poachers, people who used to poach on the property. We've employed them and trained them up to be scouts. Some of these scouts have been here for over 20 years. We have 94 scouts on the property, which in turn, with their salaries, they probably supporting up to 500 to 600 people plus. These families also create a buffer zone for us in the community. There are eyes and ears in the community, and quite often get hold of us with information to help us on people in the community who they don't recognize. The Malangwi Scouts are a very happy bunch, very motivated and very loyal. Their loyalty has helped us over the past 20 years or 21 years to protect one of the world's most successful critically endangered black rhino populations. The population of black rhinos has grown by 532%, and the white rhino is 729% over that 21 years. Something we're extremely proud of. Although our success is gauged by numbers of rhino and growth rates, none of this would be possible without the generous help from our donors and well-wishers. So for this, we're extremely grateful.
One ranger's salary is estimated to care for up to 30 people. Rangers are willing to pay with their lives to keep our natural treasures safe, as every year nearly 100 are killed and more injured. Now with COVID, laying off units are affecting the ability to properly equip and train them during this time. The threats to their livelihoods and safety have exponentially increased. They need our help more than ever.
In Africa, it seems to me that people absorb knowledge like a sponge. They're just so hungry to gain information. And whether it's a newspaper that gets read by 100 people, or a classroom that takes place under, the shade of a tree. It's just remarkable to see how into learning people are there. And so there, I think that education stands a huge chance. It sparks belief, changes attitudes, and ultimately changes people's behavior. So in terms of wildlife, it's huge, because if people see wildlife as something that they can benefit from because they've learned about tourism, or they've learned about conservation, or maybe they learned about bees, and that bees can not only get them honey, but it can help protect their crops from marauding elephants. Education is just a real key. And we thank you guys for turning in and listening to this and learning for yourself about what's going on in Africa. And if you want to know more, please do go to endangeredrangers.com and have a look at that.
What's up, everybody? Damon John here to talk to you about an important cause within Endangered Rangers, the Grumeti Fund Entrepreneurial Program. What we've learned is that in the northwest corridor of the Serengeti, those who can't meet their basic needs typically resort to poaching to provide for their families, and that is 99% of the population that have these needs. That is why entrepreneurial training is such a critical ingredient to a long-term anti-poaching strategy. These programs help to create jobs that empower them in their journey to rise out of poverty and reduces their need to poach. In fact, businesses who were started after graduating the Grumeti program have seen a 33% lift in revenue. My passion for mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs is one of the reasons that I'm thrilled to be here. It's incredible to see these African entrepreneurs rising up through these programs and learning the ins and outs of running a successful business. And I am proud to support these programs and here to introduce one of their members, Grace Matiko, who created her own business instead of relying on poaching to support herself. I hope you're as inspired as I am off of her story, and please enjoy and thank you for donating to Endangered Rangers.
Nilikuwa jagiri na ilikuwa inanibidi nifanye hivyo kwa sababu nilikuwa nakosa mahitaji. Kwa hiyo ilikuwa ni lazima nifanye hivyo ili niweze kujipatia mahitaji na niweze kukizi mahitaji ya familia. Lakini baadaye nikachukua mkopo. Nilipochukua mkopo nikafungua duka la kuuza vitenge na kanga. Nimefungua hilo duka, baadaye nikapata mafunzo kutoka Grumeti ya ujasiriamali. Kwa hiyo nilipochukua mafunzo hayo nikaamua kubadilisha fani niingie kwenye ufundi. Nikajifunza ufundi wa cherehani. Kwa hiyo sasa hivi mimi ni fundi mzuri, nawashonea watu nguo. Napomshonea mteja nguo akavaa akapendeza, nafurahi sana. Nafurahi sana kutoka moyoni. Maana na imani huyo mteja kama amependeza, siku nyingine tena atarudi na atawashawishi wateja wengine. Na washauri wanawake wenzangu kwamba tunaweza. Si kwamba kila kitu tukae tukisubiria kuletewa. Sasa hivi ni muda wa kutafuta na wewe unaweza. Kwa hiyo na imani mwanamke ukiamka unasaidiwa na unaweza kweli. Kuliko pale unapokuwa umekaa unasubiri uletewe, muda wa kutafutiwa umepita. Kwa hiyo sasa hivi kila mtu anapambana na hali kadiri ya uwezo wake alivyojaliwa na Mwenyezi Mungu.
And we have Don Felder from the Eagles.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. As we have heard from so many of our friends in this broadcast, we know that people are hurting. But that same hurt is being felt all across the globe. Humanity really has no borders. We've come together to raise awareness with funds going directly to the immediate needs on the ground and to equip these peacekeepers with the gear and tools they need to help us together eradicate poaching in our lifetime. The timelines until the extinction of key species has been amplified due to COVID, and now is the time for us to unite. With that said, I want to dedicate this song that has meant so much to me to be some inspiration, and I hope you will help in whatever way you can. If it's a donation, sharing this video with your friends, it will ripple across the whole globe and across the world, and every tiny action, big or small, makes a difference. Thank you so much.
corridor, I thought I heard them say, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place. Plenty of room at the Hotel California. Any time of year, you can find it here. Her mind is Tiffany twisted. She got the Mercedes Benz. She got a lot of pretty, pretty boys that she calls friends. And how they dance in the courtyard, sweet summer sweat. Some dance to remember, some dance to forget. So I called up the captain, please bring me my wine. He said, we haven't had that spirit here since 1969. And still those voices are calling from far away. They wake you up in the middle of the night just to hear them say, welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place. You're living it up at the Hotel California. What a nice surprise. Bring your alibis. Mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. She said, we're all just prisoners here of our own device. In the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their stealing knives. They just can't kill the beast. The last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Said the night man, we are programmed to receive. And you can check it time you like, but you can never leave.
can even text to give. Text Rangers to 1-833-968-1234.
during coronavirus, maintenance of morale is one very, very key area. You know, during any times of hardship, it's very important to try and maintain that morale. One thing we've managed to do is keep the salaries of the rangers on full pay. So that's been a huge blessing, and wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for people generously, donating to us. So that's one area we've really managed to keep that morale high. We also, concentrate on physical fitness, and just, have a deep mutual respect for the rangers, whereby if they have problems, that we address those problems as quickly as we can.
Thank you for joining us. Rangers don't get to take leisurely strolls in the bush. Rather, they are acutely monitoring 360 degrees by foot or vehicle for days or weeks, and especially at night when poachers are mostly active. Finding nothing is a good thing, but all too often they are busy collecting snares, often hundreds a day, or responding to gunshots, hopefully in time to save a life.
Now let's have a look at some really interesting technology-focused projects.
Kurt Vonnegut said, "Science is magic that works." I buy it. Makes perfect sense. But it wasn't long ago that we couldn't understand what caused entire species to become extinct, why the ground shook or crops dried out. One of the promises of AI is that it'll enable us to use machine learning for prediction and conservation, anything from protecting wildlife to anticipating earthquakes. Seeing the future may not prevent disasters, but I think we can all agree we need an equipment upgrade. What the heck, let's give it a shot. Is the 6th mass extinction on the horizon? Reply hazy, try again.
Are you ready? You are looking the one with the collar.
There are about 250,000 parks in the world, and about 80,000 of them are under threat.
So this is a trail that's both being used by elephants and by poachers?
We think so, yeah. We've come all the way over here to Africa to stop poachers before they kill by using artificial intelligence. Fingers crossed that this works.
Are you ready? Yes, you're ready.
Poachers kill roughly 35,000 African elephants every year. A single pound of ivory tusk can sell for $1,500, and tusks can weigh 250 pounds each. Elephants are about a decade away from extinction. But it's not just about protecting one kind of animal or keystone species. There are about 1 million other species which are in danger of being wiped out. Animals affect vegetation. Biodiversity shapes ecosystems, all of which in turn impact people. It's all connected. So, it's not a stretch to say that protecting African elephants protects humanity and our future.
We have 7 main pillars to our anti-poaching work, and the three main ones are management, funding, and intelligence. For me, the most important there is probably management, the way we manage our staff. I have a very, very close bond with my team. They're treated in a very fair way. They're well looked after. They're very well numerated. And all of these things lead to a big happy family, basically. We show a very keen interest in their families and how their families are treated. We have a clinic which covers all their families as well. All these things sort of lead to a happiness within the unit. So yeah, a big part of my job is managing all of that. On the funding side of things, obviously without funding, we wouldn't be able to do what we do, and it's probably one of our hardest things is finding the funding to deal with all of these things. But fortunately, we do have very, very kind donors, and without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't have achieved what we have, and yeah, we wouldn't be where we are. On the intelligence side of things, we work in a very proactive way rather than reactive. We rely on our intelligence team to provide information on poachers, on what's happening in our communities, and generally warn us of any up-and-coming incidents that may happen. And yeah, so that's, without those three things, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Regardless if you call them drones or UAVs, these eyes in the sky are watching you. By you, I mean poachers. Whether they are quadcopters flying at low altitudes or fixed-wing flyers which can now surf the skies at pseudo-satellite levels, they can detect good guys from the bad guys and leopards from lions.
Up next, we have Earth Ranger. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for your donations. I'd like to urge you to continue donating, to not forget about these people that are looking after these endangered species in Africa.
A lot about what's happening in the modern world is devastating for wildlife, but there are a few exceptions. Technologies that are used now for understanding wildlife and where it exists and how to protect it are becoming really, really important and giving us an edge over things like ivory poaching or rhino poaching or any kind of poaching for that matter. One of the most important tools to come along recently is something called Earth Ranger. And Earth Ranger works by collecting data points from whether it's rangers or elephants or vehicles on the ground, and it helps to sort of map out everything that's going on in the field so that managers can visualize, well, if we send these rangers here, the elephants there, that's, we know where everybody is, and it gives them a very impressive way to manage logistics, among other things. And so I've literally seen Earth Ranger working in action, and it's a phenomenal tool.
Let's see what secure communications do.
I'm the CEO and founder of Kinetic 6. Kinetic 6 is a veteran-owned company, a good mix of special forces, intelligence, and cyber experts. We are a communications technology company working closely in support with those of similar backgrounds globally. But conservation is our passion, and we use those skills we obtained over many years in operational experience to deliver that expertise for those in conservation where it's been lacking for many years. So We deliver UK-US special operations commercial solutions to maximise success in conservation and share our knowledge to maintain sustainable solutions that we hope will stand the test of time. The credit goes to those on the front line who live and breathe the daily tasks of protection of wildlife and the support of their communities. But what I do know is that most of the teams that we work closely with great communications, IoT support, teamwork and joint effort of others result in zero downtime of our solutions. Africa's difficult enough to work in, and if you're not working in a collaborative teamwork spirit, then it's very difficult. Those areas tend to be the ones with minimal or zero poaching of loss of life. This isn't because of Kinetic 6, but those areas that do have poor communications, a lack of collaborative effort and poor training tend to be your worst areas of poaching. So we're proud to be operational in many locations that achieve zero or loss of life, both to rangers and wildlife. So it is an absolute team effort, but we do believe with our superior communications, IoT, training, we do contribute to that zero poaching and loss of life, absolutely. About the future in the fight against poaching, I hope COVID has woken people up. We need to focus on the transition of knowledge in conservation partners. Education is key. And working to make sure that the locations we're working with have their own local champions, that's really important. I think the true champions are working together and collaborating more. People are partnering and realising that actually we can't do this alone. You know, one comms company can't expect to do it all without the right partners on the ground. You know, it's all about transferring knowledge. It's making sure that we have the right people on the ground. And for me, as a UK headquartered company, for us, we already have our Kenyan engineers that have done over 15 projects in the during COVID. And for us, we've not deployed. There's not been a single UK engineer deployed. So having local engineers, transfer of knowledge and education on the ground in Africa, delivering for Africans in their own continent is the most important thing for me. And actually, we're already achieving that, and we've done that by the COVID piece. So I think that is the most important thing, is collaborating of organisations and making sure we transfer the education across and the IP to those in Africa. I think there's a core of people now in conservation who are truly working together. And I think it's those partnerships that have the biggest impact, and working closely allows integration of our solutions with ease, which obviously results in true operational success. And I think that's really important. But hopefully people choose to work with Kinetic 6 because they understand what drives us. You know, we never really got into conservation for any other reason, because we felt that the communication solutions and technology was lacking. And this is what we do at the highest level in our military careers and government careers. And to be able to do this and deliver that standard of conservation with real passion for what we do, and they know we care, is I think the real reason why they work with us. It's a passion, not a business, and to execute your passion through your job is a dream scenario for everyone here at Kinetic 6. And I think the clients see that. Actually, COVID has had a very positive impact on Kinetic 6, bizarrely enough. We've been adding IoT infrastructure into our networks for the last 4 years. And we took a lot of criticism for it because our infrastructures were more expensive than anyone else's. And it's very difficult to get across the importance of IoT in the early stages. And actually, via COVID situation with NGOs and some of the support mechanisms leaving areas of Africa, leaving some people exposed, it was actually the IoT that really come to play, because ultimately, throughout that period of time, with lack of travel, the fact that we could still monitor our radio networks by the second, minute, hour, the fact that we could reach into those areas and maintain and manage and support the clients, partners, rangers, when no one else really could because they weren't in place. There are other software products, Earth Ranger, Esri, and a few others out there that people, because they're on the internet, as long as you have internet, you can plug in and go in and support. And that was the important part of the IoT infrastructure piece for Kinetic 6. And I think COVID really exposed that. Further to that, we've added some cyber tools in the protection of those areas, the domains. The cyber threat is huge at the moment with hacks going across multiple areas, as well as conservation. So being able to manage their networks, make sure that they're safe in the cyber world, as well as understanding when their radio systems are failing or falling over, to be able to support that immediately 24/7 has been a huge impact, and actually very positive. And I think COVID has exposed the lack of support from other entities that are operating.
Another new important technology is secure communication. Kinetic 6 offers that to rangers working in the field now. If you can imagine what it's like communicating over radios, it's very easy to intercept that communication, and rangers just need to be one step ahead of poachers that they're actually trying to catch. Cell phones have been a very useful way of collecting data from poachers, because poachers all carry phones with text messages and things like that. So on the one hand, unsecure information is really good for the rangers when they're catching it from poachers, but it's not good if it goes the other way.
We can't say much about Kinetic 6 because, well, they are as stealth as their communications and cybersecurity systems for wildlife conservation as they are secure. Rumors of special forces training abound. We are just encouraged that they are using wherever they got their training for the purposes of conservation. We bet poachers have no idea that the Rangers' communications is completely secure and that the radio network is live monitored from the UK.
Yeah, what are all these sensors about?
What is so special about Smart Parks? Smart Parks is the first organization in the world that uses technology for the benefit of conservation. We were the first ones ever to place sensors like these into a rhino horn so we could see almost 24/7 where the animals are. What can people do to help us? Well, first of all, we want as many parks to know about the capabilities of technology and how they can be used to protect species or even help protect or improve park management. So the more ambassadors we have to tell the story, the better. Of course, what we want the most is to provide the technology to as many parks as possible. Now, for that, we need to keep the technology as inexpensive as possible. And for that, we need to raise funds so we can keep the R&D going and employ more people so we can provide the technology for a very low price to the parks we work with. And the lower the cost, the more technology they can implement. So it's not a very difficult answer, but I certainly hope people can help us with that.
Pangolins are the world's most trafficked animal that you've never heard of. Do not confuse these cuddly creatures with anteaters. They aren't even related, despite their mutual love of insects. But nearly 3 million pangolins are poached every year, mostly because people are misinformed as to the purpose of their silky scales. Made of keratin, just like your fingernails, the scales of the pangolin are meant to stay on the pangolin and protect them like armor from natural predators. Their scales are not cures for cancer or arthritis or enhance male vitality, if you know what I mean.
Another new and exciting technology that's being implemented into conservation are these sensors. My first experience with sensors was we were in a forest in Central Africa trying to figure out exactly how many chimpanzees were in this forest, or if there were any at all. And so what the scientists did was they put these recording devices out in the forest that would be triggered anytime it heard a chimpanzee call. And through that, they to make a pretty good guess as to how many chimpanzees were in the habitat. Now, these sensor technologies have gone far beyond that to where they're able to record, IR images of animals moving in the forest at night. They can detect, a chainsaw cutting down trees or gunshots, So it's a way of sort of monitoring a forest without actually being there and triggering on at certain cues, there's a danger here or a new species discovered over here that we didn't know existed, or this is the home range of, this particular individual animal that is, critically endangered or anything. So these sensors are becoming really, really important in conservation.
We've got some very interesting things coming from Project 15 and Microsoft.
We lose one elephant from the planet every 15 minutes. We will lose all elephants in 10 years. It is that statistic that pushed me into action. 15 minutes. The issues we're having around preservation, nature, and what I've learned is that scientists need help and they're running out of time. Project 15 is about building this bridge between the scientific community and the technical community so they can learn what tools we can bring to the table.
The Serengeti is one of the largest parks in Africa at 17,000 square kilometers, yet the Serengeti only has 150 guards. Imagine trying to protect the state of Maryland with 150 rangers. It's impossible. We started on Trail Guard about 4 years ago. It's a sensor put out in the field that can detect poachers and stop them before they kill. The first ones were successful. The problem was that our camera system sent every image, and that drained the battery really fast.
By listening to him, I learned that a solution that I had designed applied, and that was a safety platform called Project Edison. His camera sent events. It was the same as anything we did in a city, and that was my aha moment.
Sarah talks about the idea, and I said, I know how to do it.
We started drawing boundaries and where we could put devices and how that could all be brought up to the cloud for better notification of rangers.
We built Azure as a hyperscale cloud services platform. We're able to provide machine learning, analytics, or reporting all over the world.
Microsoft is really advancing these deep neural network models that are able to identify any species that is of concern to conservation.
We have a truly hybrid platform. I can run the same services that I have in the cloud down at the edge.
Microsoft's been dedicated to environmental sustainability for a long time. We have this culture that says if you can invent a technology solution to that problem, you should do that.
Project 15 can really have a bigger impact with something I already know.
There's a breadth of challenges that need to be solved. There's connectivity, networking, there's devices to be built.
One idea is to use the drone and the AI, and with this solar cells, we can cover big parks in Africa with the self-charging drones.
These are the kind of ideas. There's animal preservation, climate research, water purification.
We are looking for contribution from people with different technologies, skills, experience. Everybody can contribute.
Whatever you are interested in, take 15 minutes just to think about it.
How can the solutions you're developing be reimagined in the pursuit of solving some of the world's most critical challenges? Join Project 15 and bring your ideas to the table.
Please join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Please join us.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am a solution architect over at Microsoft, and I'm here today to talk about a project I founded named Project 15. Now, Project 15, you may say, what's that mean? I named my project after the amount of time it takes for us to lose an elephant from this earth, which is every 15 minutes, and I believe that number has gone down, which is unfortunate. We're out of time, and I, as a concerned citizen, over the past 40 years, have watched so much happen that about a year and a half ago, I realized I could, in fact, help and bring my skills to the table. And the origin story of Project 15 is that I had designed a safety system that leveraged IoT, which means Internet of Things, and what that means is connected devices that send data and do stuff. So if you think of a smart bulb and you can send a message from the internet to say, turn yellow, turn red, that's part of the Internet of Things. And I just wanted to give you that concept if you don't know what those letters mean. And so that's my day job, is creating global, scalable, connected solutions with our partner ecosystem. And so I had invented a safety platform that leveraged IoT to speak in an emergency and give information to people using vibrating bracelets or lights that change colors, so that we would have better communication within an emergency. That was aimed at safe schools, safe workplaces, and safe cities. And what happened was that I met Eric Dinerstein, and I realized that anti-poaching was just another use case. I can take it into a different realm and say, well, what's the real difference between stealing a sweater from a big store and stealing a pangolin from a park? There's no conceptual difference there. It's just that there's different technology challenges to solve, and folks like me, we love to solve things like that. So I launched a project that really asked the question, what if I could connect my world that I was in with my friends and the scientific world to accelerate scientific projects faster? And that's how it started. And about 8 months ago, we put up a web page. It was kind of a phone out on the internet, and said, hey, maybe they'll call. And some folks called, and I'm excited to be here today and talk a little bit about the Zambezi partners who called and said, hey, we found your video and we are trying to build a system, and can you help us? And my day job is that many startups come in and say, hey, we're building a system. Can you help? Absolutely. Let's do an architectural session. Let me look at your business requirements. And the difference between commercial solutioning and the scientifically based solutioning really was the business model. There's a granting business model. It's a very different business model than I'm going to have an IPO or et cetera. So what my team realized is that we really needed to accelerate these projects. We needed to build something to help folks like Zambezi Partners and some of our other NGO friends that picked up the phone and called us. So we built an 80% platform and put it out on open source. Now, when I say open source, you may wonder what that is if you're not from a technical background, but it's free software that the community of developers develops on. And it opens up, a lot of opportunities. And really the past 10 years, everything you've seen that's really cool on the internet has really, really just gone really fast because of social and open source coding. So we put out a platform that now organizations like Zambezi Partners can expand. And I use an analogy of a word, and how, if you think about writing a book, and if you had to build a typewriter every time you wanted to write a book or your resume, well, that would be a mess. Nothing would get written. And so basically, think about 80% of you writing a book, that is a word processor, and 20% of that is your story, and that's what makes a book, and then you sell the book. So we created a word processor of sorts for IoT and AI solutions up on Microsoft's cloud, Azure. So that's just a very short summary of what I do, and what Project 15 is. And I just want to take an extra minute here, and talk about some of the stuff people ask me how I think technology is advancing conservation. I think it's incredible what is about to happen. I think that we, as a technical community, have started to catch up, to the problem, and we are landing such interesting devices, technologies. We're making, things faster, and we're able to put, intelligence on cameras. We call that the intelligent edge, and I'm really, really excited. And a system that's based on Project 15, for example, you're now getting data and you could send notifications to rangers and get better data to make better decisions and faster decisions. And so it's really something that the transformation that's coming is not unlike how we've seen Internet of Things and data transform other industries. And so that's where we are in that. And I think that we're going to get to the place where, you know, somebody who's out in the field is going to be able to just get all the data they need, the pictures, the information, and just go. We're going to learn how to identify plastics in the ocean better. You know, everything is about to begin. That's my professional, hopeful opinion. So anyway, I could talk about this for hours and hours. Thank you so much for inviting me. And if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about Project 15, it is Project 15 from Microsoft, and it's aka.ms/WAC Project 15. And you can get the code. You can go. There's a link that's where the code is, and you can get going if you're building your own solution. Any questions, you can email me also at project15@microsoft.com. Thank you so much. Wish we were in person. Bye.
Do not let that laugh fool you. Hyenas are amazingly intelligent creatures, yet their scientifically proven problem-solving skills don't mean anything when they are trapped in a poacher's snare, as many incidents have been reported during the pandemic. Hyenas are also known to possess unique immune systems, making them able to withstand diseases that often befell other animals. Their survival is key to understanding how we can protect all wildlife from such threats.
Sharing scientific information is really important for wildlife conservation. For an example, my older sister, Joyce Poole, has an organization called elephantvoices.org. And she has been out in the bush for some 35 years recording elephant sounds. And she's recorded what all these sounds mean. So anybody who is out to understand elephants or what's happening in their community can literally go on her website and interpret not only elephant sounds, but also behaviors and all kinds of things. Microsoft's Project 15 is taking that even one step farther, where they are creating a software that is able to be shared across all these different scientific communities. And it's literally going to change the way that scientists can share information in the future.
Women play a very important role in anti-poaching initiatives. Let's take a closer look.
ejo twayisize Kinege ingagi zose ukoresha 3 zirahari. Tracking twakoresheje isaha, gusohoka dukoresha 30. Hanyuma ingagi yari irimo ifite ikibazo ni imwe, ni pato yari ifite igikomere ku kiganza cy'ibumoso inyuma ariko kiri gukira. Nta kindi kibazo kiri muri groupe zisose. Kuba ari ngiye umukobwa urimo akaba ari ngiye ufite imyaka mikeya, nkaba ndi na chef wabo mbayoboye. Bimpa imbaraga cyane nkumva biri kuma gukomeza gukorana nabo, nkumva ngomba gukomeza nkabungabunga ingagi. Bimpa imbaraga.
ngo akazi kanje nk'umuveterineri ni ugukurikirana imiryango y'ingagi iba muri parike y'ibirunga, kareba niba nta kibazo cy'ubuzima zifite, byaba ngombwa hari ikeneye kuvurwa tukayivura. Ariko nanone muri ako kazi ko gukurikirana ubuzima bw'ingagi hari bagenzi bacu twita mu rurimi rw'amahanga abatraka bashinzwe kuba bazikurikira umunsi ku munsi. Nabo nka veterineri bategurira amahugurwa ku buryo bazajya badufasha gukurikira ubuzima bw'ingagi. Iyo babona itameze neza bakaduha amakuru, natwe tukajyayo. Kabone nubwo mu kazi ka buri munsi nanjye mba ngomba kujyayo nubwo zaba zitarwaye. Baba traka rero icyo badufasha nuko icyambere n'iyi ngagi yarwaye nibo baza aho umuryango uri, bahereye aho bawusize ku munsi ukurikiye tujyana nabo bakatugeza ku muryango. Ikindi, umuryango uko waba ungana kose bazi gutandukanya ingagi ku yindi, bityo banadufasha no kumenya ngo ingagi irwaye ni iyihe. Murumva ko akazi kabo ni ak'ingenzi cyane. Noneho umusi yagiye mu muryango, njye ntarimo nka veterineri, arazigenzura imwe ku yindi, haba hari yabonye ifite ibimenyetso by'uburwayi agatanga raporo. Urumva ko ni iby'agaciro, tuzirikana akazi kabo.
Up next is Jordan Sparks.
Hey guys, it's me, Jordan, and I just wanted to tell a little story about my trip to Africa, which was so amazing. I went in 2011, was when the story happened. We went to Rwanda, and it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. We went on a gorilla trek to find gorillas, and we ended up getting lost for a good 7 hours, but we saw a whole bunch of gorillas, and also a small baby gorilla fell on top of the woman who was walking right in front of me. So I got to see it, and it was incredible. And they are incredibly intelligent species and so beautiful, and they definitely need to be protected. So I'm so excited I could be here today to sing for endangered rangers. This song is called Love is Alive, and it's from my Christmas album, Cider and Hennessy. I hope you enjoy. So it was night before Christmas, gathered around the tree. Do you feel the rush? S'mores on the fire, your love on the side. Santa is on his way, just look up above. It's a beautiful time when you cross my mind. I know that it's Christmas time and love is alive. I found a postcard with your name on it. It said I love you, and I started to miss you all over. I started to wish you'd come over this Christmas, yeah. These memories are the most beautiful gift. I wouldn't cross a single one off my list, even though it's over. Still dream about you in color. Hey, so it was night before Christmas, gathered around the tree. Do you feel the rush? S'mores on the fire with your love on the side. Santa is on his way, just look up above. It's a beautiful time when you cross my mind. I know that it's Christmas time and love is alive. Oh, it's Christmas time. Love is. We were sitting by the fireplace. I could have sworn I saw you in the flames. Over the silver bells I call your name. It put a smile on my face. I remember hey, gathered around the tree. Do you feel the rush? S'mores on the fire with your love on the side. Santa is on his way. Look above. It's a beautiful time when you cross my mind. I know that it's Christmas time and love is alive. It's Christmas time. Love is alive. Can you feel it?
My name is Alina Peter, and I'm the Anti-Poaching Operations Room Coordinator for the Grumeti Fund.
What I do with the Grimaldi Fund, particularly for the anti-poaching department, is I use technology to support the well-trained boots on the ground. All this information will be fields will be... Many technologies are being developed to work in conservation, but it's so easy to get lost in what works and what doesn't work for you. But having Earth Range has given us the ability to actually have various technologies integrated into one, and being able to use that and visualize and get reports and store reports in one platform. Combining conservation and technology is actually something that I'm so passionate about because of its uniqueness and the fact that it's actually it's like a cutting-edge technology, and it's a completely new era way of actually tackling conservation and anti-poaching challenges. The thing that drives my passion is actually the impact that I see that what we do has on conservation, anti-poaching efforts, and the communities that surround our reserve. It's nice seeing that the community is more involved and becoming more aware of what is in their area and how to protect it and value it.
The secret formula to weathering the storm when it comes to anti-poaching is simply to have a dogged attitude, determination, and keep on going. I think it was a Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, during the Second World War said, when you find yourself going through hell, keep going. And that's simply what we have to do. We just have to keep going, don't give up, and fight as hard as we can and get through these challenges.
Traditionally in Africa, men were warriors, and they also hunted. Women did everything else. They tended fields, harvested crops, fetched firewood and water, raised children, built homes. They did everything. And now things are changing. Because of education, women are getting good jobs, and they're also becoming rangers. In fact, some of these entirely women unit rangers are some of the best. It's incredible. It's not just rangers too. It's also safari guides and research people, women studying elephants, for example, in Kenya. Some of the best researchers out there are African women.
So consider donating early. People can even text to give. Text Rangers to 1-833-968-1234.
There are so many ways you can help the Rangers. You can do a report at school and educate your friends about Rangers and conservation. You can raise money to help the Rangers. I did a fundraiser once where kids just collected quarters and we raised over $6,000. Trust me, quarters add up quickly.
Once unacceptable for women to work outside the home or considered physically too weak, there are now all-female anti-poaching units materializing throughout sub-Saharan Africa. These women are fierce and changing mindsets, military-level trained, growing in numbers, and breaking down barriers literally and figuratively. These women are unstoppable.
Rangers face a number of challenges. First of all, they're working in a Big Five concession. So, and they're on foot in very isolated areas. So they come up against these Big Five animals frequently, and they're quite dangerous. They can be quite dangerous. You know, elephant, buffalo, lion. These are very dangerous, classed as very dangerous animals. So that is one example of a challenge. Secondly, the poachers. Poachers obviously don't want to be caught, and very often will fight, and a number of rangers have lost their lives in the line of duty. So that's a second thing. And thirdly, very often the poachers come from the same areas that the rangers come from. So when they go home, it's not unusual for rangers to be ostracized and you know, in extreme cases attacked. So the life of a ranger here can be extremely challenging, but it can also be very rewarding.
Next performance will be Dave Matthews.
this is kind of a new song, and it's a little bit, in my opinion, when I'm writing, it's a little bit sciencey. It's about coming out of the water like our ancestors did. It's about the idea of eternity, which in the song is a plastic bag. It's about not taking everything, but maybe just taking what you need. And it's about science. Because all of this magic around us, butterflies and whatnot, and tides, it's all part of this sort of scientific reality and how we view it. And so this is a song called The Ocean and the Butterfly. Hope everybody's doing all right. Sorry that I take so long and I ramble. But I hope that you all are doing well in this insane time, crazy time. Okay, I got to remember how this song goes. Once I had a dream, stuck somewhere in between the water and the beach, both worlds out of reach. So with elegance and style, caught a wave and took a ride. Empty plastic bag on a starry night that floats into the black. Look at how she dip and dive, but no one could ever know how many miles she'll go, or how she does with such elegance and style. Look at how she dip and dive. Only what you need, like the water and the seed. So after we are gone, there'll be something good to carry on. All this elegance and style, ocean and a butterfly. No miracle, it's all grown mechanical. Machines by cells designed to float into the sky with such elegance and style, the ocean and a butterfly. Thank you, everybody, very much. Y'all take care and everything. Bye-bye.
And we have our friends, the Green Sheikh.
My name is Abdulaziz bin Ali Al-Naimi, as known as the Green Sheikh. Many people could know Green Sheikh, but what exactly Green Sheikh means? G for global, R for rethink, E for environment, other E for ethics, then N for network. If we see the other word, Sheikh, not Sheikh, not Sheikh, Sheikh, S-H-E-I-K-H. This is how to be spelled and pronounced Sheikh or Sheikh. S for spiritual, H for humble, E for enlightenment, I for ihsan, which is excellence, then K for knowledge, H for human being. Why we need to protect the planet? There are people, plants, species, animals, creation, all those we need to protect them. So protecting the environment means protect humanity. Humans have a moral obligations to preserve nature and its features. Biodiversity is a significant part of life in the world. Remember, there are three things we have to take in action. One is awakening the mind. The second is behavior and perception change toward planet. The third is action, collaboration, join forces from all around the planet, from different faith, culture, race, countries, civilization, to make the planet better. We need the planet. The planet doesn't need us. It can sustain, it can survive. But us, without the planet, we cannot survive. We cannot sustain. Remember, we change the environment for us. But the animals change themselves for the environment. So we need the balance of the ecosystem. Many animals need the environment to survive, for survival. Environmental protection reminds us to appreciate the beauty of nature, the beauty of imagination, the beauty of medicine, food, resources, natural resources. Remember, the whole planet is a holy planet.
Thank you all so much for all your help. Believe me, it's truly appreciated.
There's no better symbol of the wild than the majestic lion, but it's a tad misleading that king of the jungle moniker, as they live more in treeless savannas, not jungles. And there really isn't a king either, as they live in an egalitarian society without ranking. You can call them the king of the beasts, maybe, but take that up with the nearest lion to debate. More importantly, we have lost 90% of the lion population in the last 100 years. We are on track for them to be completely extinct by the year 2050. This is catastrophic. Loss of habitat, poaching, trophy hunting, disease, and climate change are what we are fighting against.
And we have some words from Chief Ojima.
Hi, Anin. You guys get in and in my language, I'm just saying, how are you? And just to say a few words on the spirit of the land, the spirit of the environment, the spirit of the whole world. I think all of us have something in common all over the world. Creator gave us in this world for us to take care of the planet, to take care of the spirit of this land that we were put in, the spirit of the environment, the spirit of the water, the spirit of the trees, the spirit of the animals. Today I'd like to encourage other leaders around the world to look at what has happened in other countries for the future generation, because it is about the spirit, it is about the environment. We must respect and do a protocol. If we're going to take something from somebody's backyard or somebody's land, we must do a protocol. We must ask. We must inform them so they can give us consent. If we just take something without the protocol, without Great Spirit's help, we're going to destroy the future generation, their future. Already a lot of things are disappearing, like other countries. So your leaders, let's pull together Let's come up with something with that spirit, with that creation, to balance it again. We do have it. If we come together and if we work together about the environment, about the spirit, about the creation, about the future generation, their future, we can do it. But we need to work together. We need to help each other. We need to support each other about the environment. Because it's our future generation that are going to be living with that environment. The animals that are out there, they're part of that creation. So it is about spirit. It is about life. It's about creation. And we need to maintain that. We need to be caretakers of the environment, but it involves the whole world. So let's support other countries that are coming together, work for the future generation so they can enjoy what we enjoy today. So thank you, and I hope you come together. So thank you, miigwech. Yeah.
I think for small game poachers, I think poaching had increased because people are not committed to their working places. They are just seated. So most of their concentration is on poaching, especially in the woodlands. But as for Pandamaswe currently, I think we are on top of the situation because we managed to control, especially those foreign poachers, the Zambian poachers who were causing havoc in Pandamaswe. With the assistance from wildlife in terms of transport, fuel, deployments. Guards are being deployed at each and every corner, and whenever there is any incident, we are able to quickly react due to the availability of all the resources. So I think we are on top of the situation. But as for other areas like Unit 1, Woodlands, and Scaveras, there's still high challenges of poaching for those small game poachers, game meeting, poaching game for selling.
We are still looking forward to achieve our best. We are pushing and we will be pushing. For now, we are 3 at the moment. We are doing our best. As you can see here, I'm left alone, but the guys are on taking their break. They're on their way just now, so that I can also go and have mine. But I think the role is done. You can have challenges, but we have to be a man and to be stand still. Like I said earlier, we don't have to give up, so we'll be pushing.
We can all be global citizens and help save the animals. Remember that advocacy has no age limit and that kids can save animals. Thank you for supporting endangered rangers and happy holidays.
What makes me hopeful for the future? What makes me hopeful for the future is that we are creating more and more awareness about the loss of biodiversity and the importance for our planet and for us as species to thrive. Is a big variety of species that we need to live with. So that awareness makes me hopeful, and I'm very keen about using technology. I think technology can play a massive role in avoiding human-wildlife conflict. By knowing where the animals are, park rangers and other decision makers, they can decide, okay, how are we going to interact with these animals, and how do we make sure that no humans get hurt and no animals can hurt, and that the whole environment can thrive. So for that, I'm very hopeful.
I've alluded to coronavirus a few times, and in addition to the challenges that we've already suffered due to coronavirus, there have been a number of knock-on effects. Obviously, like with everywhere, budgets have been cut, donations have been very, very difficult to secure, so we've had to forego on certain things, for example, like uniform. And we have a 2-year cycle of uniform. So on 1 year, we will do the clothing, and on the 2nd year, we'll do the boots. And obviously, this year, we've had to scrap that. So when things pick up again, hopefully very soon, we're going to have to try and get uniform and boots in the same year to kick off that cycle again, and that is essentially going to be double the cost. So that's one idea of how coronavirus has affected anti-poaching going forward. It will take some time to get us back to where we were before we went into this, in terms of actual anti-poaching operations. Although we keep going, we're going to have to take some time for the poaching pressure to taper off and people to get back into employment. So there's going to be, where the rest of the world will probably start picking up. I believe there's a vaccine now. We're going to continue to struggle for quite some time until things normalize everywhere else.
I think it's really important to sort of grasp the idea that over 100 rangers die every year in the line of duty in Africa. That's over 1,000 in the last decade. It's hard to imagine how difficult their lives are, how they endure, horrible conditions and work so hard, often on foot in mud and rain and hot and dry, and all to protect the wildlife that we love so much. I think this Endangered Rangers is a fantastic organization and a great place where you can contribute and feel good about what's being done with your money. And if you can't spare money, which is totally understandable, perhaps you could just share this video with other people who might be able to, because every little bit matters, and it really matters now. Thank you.
Well, I want to take this moment to thank you all for donating, and it's an inherent obligation for all of us to do our part in saving the last heritage of humanity. Thank you.
I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is something that's very special to me, and I urge you to not forget about these people that are watching after these endangered species in Africa. Please donate. This has been my pleasure to join you. God bless.